All right, good afternoon and happy Easter. This is Penelope Flynn, and I'm here in the OTHERhood with the rest of your Blerdsassins Next Door. This is our resurrection show on this Easter Sunday, and it's the resurrection show where careers are reborn. We'll be talking about those actors who leave a role in one place and are reborn. They're reborn in another role elsewhere. But before we get started, as usual, we're going to talk a little about the weather. And James, your top center, how is the weather in New York City?
Uh, right now it's 56 degrees. It's light rain. This morning it was a really dense fog had set in where you couldn't even look out the window. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and before that we had like a serious windstorm that came in. I guess from I don't know. I guess from New England since my window faced east off the East River. It was knocking phone lines and internet offline.
How about the cigarette building? Did it sway?
I don't know. I hope it did. That's the most stupidest building that's ever been built in New York City.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. All right. Well, Sonia, how is your weather? I mean, are you in the cold region now or the warming up trend?
We were warming up. It's getting cooler now. It's supposed to snow later on this evening. Um,
Wow.
it, it was nice and beautiful on Friday. It was like blue skies. Had a little, and then sat yesterday. It was a little bit more overcast, and today, yeah. So it's like 43
Wow.
degrees right about now, as opposed to
Wow.
the almost 70 that we had on Friday.
That is incredible. Wow. I hope
So
that you all are surviving it.
yeah, we'll be fine.
All right. Nikki, tell us about your sunny weather, we hope, in South Florida.
It is 82 degrees and sunny here.
Ah, I envy you. Yeah, it must be
We had a
beautiful.
little bit of rain this morning, just a little, but just enough to clear the air, but it's nice.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I envy you.
It
And
is.
how about you, Otto? How's the weather?
We're still living that California life. I mean, it's like San Jose. It's 65, 70 degrees and sunny.
Hmm, right. We must have been doing something right to get this kind of weather here. So, because it's usually terrible. So, but before we, get off on all that, we're going to start today with our resurrection show with those roles that died, and then the actor was resurrected in another role. And I know we've talked about this in other instances, but in this one, we're sticking strictly with those who are out in one role, either the character died or the program ended or whatever, and then they are resurrected in their career with another role. And not just they show up incidentally, but that it becomes, their new career, that they are now identified with that new role as opposed to the old role or in addition to the old role. All right. And I know that Cranston had started this. What was it? Somebody who at one point was saying that they thought that Perry Mason, that the character that was Perry Mason, left his job and became Ironside. Like it was the same person. It's kind of crazy. But we are admitting that these are two separate roles, that the person left one role and then took off in another direction with another role.
Yeah, he was Perry Mason. He was a lawyer. And then he decided he didn't want to do the law anymore. And he went out to California, messing around out there. And he got his ass shot.
Yep,
And then he got shot. Then he couldn't walk no more. And then he became like a police investigator. And then he was on Ironsides.
that's right. That's right. But we're not doing that today. Today we're going to admit that the role ended, but then where the actor ended up in another role that resurrected their career.
Yeah,
All right.
Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr is one
Yeah.
of them. I mean, that's
Okay,
right
well,
there.
remember, of course, Stephen, but Perry Mason, which is a huge role. I mean, he's
Yeah,
still known,
iconic.
yeah,
Iconic role.
yeah, as Perry Mason. But
And
also,
Ironsides.
that's right, and
Ironside's
that's right, and
iconic.
a lot of people now, eventually knew of him as Ironside. Younger people who never got to see Perry Mason, or who only watched it to see it come on, like I
But
did.
but you see, you guys forgot that after Ironside, a miracle happened and he could walk again, and he went back to being Perry Mason in the Perry Mason TV movies.
Well, the Perry Mason areas, they say, Flintstones.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's cool. So again, see, he's resurrected again, yet again.
But how many times did that happen? When somebody leave a role,
Mm-hmm.
make another role, resurrect in another role,
Uh-huh.
and then come back to the first role? I mean, you look
I
at
don't
like
know.
you look at like
Andy
the act-
Griffith.
well, I'm thinking about what's his name on That's My Mama, right?
Ted Lang?
Ted Lang.
Yeah.
He
Mhm.
started that. He's a classically trained actor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does Shakespeare in the Park and all this stuff. And then he got a role he couldn't turn down because
You need to
paid a
live
lot of
and
money.
yeah.
Everybody needs money, so they want to be a working actor. So
Mm-hmm.
really stupid role, a really insipid role. I got it. Woo wee. Remember that? Oh, That's My
Yeah,
Mama.
and that's my mama. Yeah,
And then he became Isaac on the Love Boat.
yeah. And most people know him from that role of Isaac on the Love Boat. But the black community always knew him in that role. I can't even remember the character's name. Do you remember, James? And that's my mama.
No, I hated that character so much I never caught his name.
Yeah, it was a little much, but he paid his bills, right? But I mean, it also was an entree. People knew his name, who he was, and that got him, I believe, that next role.
Well, you also have some actors that they did the original role,
Mm-hmm.
and then they came back in another TV show, but they the TV show didn't exactly say
Mm-hmm.
that they were that character, and that's Roy Finnis. He did the Invaders, and then years later he did a character, I believe, on the X Files
Hmm.
that was similar to his character. He
But they
saw it.
never made
They
the
never, yeah, they never
connection.
said his name.
Mm-hmm.
Then actually, I think when they rebooted the Invaders, he had a small part, so
I'm going to
he
be
came
honest and
back.
say I don't remember the Invaders. You're going to have to.
Yeah, it came the original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the original Invaders. I think it ran 1966, 67, and it was about a salesman who was trying to get home, and he took a wrong turn. He decided to take a nap, and the next thing you know, he witnessed a UFO landing, and the aliens in the UFO, they were intent on, as usual, conquering the world. And he spent the next couple of, I guess, the next two seasons trying to tell everybody that these aliens
Mm-hmm.
are trying to take over the world. It's just that they look like humans. I think the only way you could tell is it was something about their hands.
Huh.
Yeah, and I think by the second season, the government started to believe him, or they did believe him, so they set out trying to counteract the invasion.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of '60s TV shows, you guys remember the Avengers, right?
Of course.
Okay, the last partner that Steed had was played by Linda Thorenson, and okay, the show ended, and I remember a while back I'm watching, I guess, Deep Space Nine,
Mm-hmm.
and I see it was an episode with Cardassians and Ferengis and the
Mm-hmm.
Federations and the Klingons. They were trying to get something off the planet. I forget what it was. I forget what the MacGuffin was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at this Cardassian, and I'm looking at her eyes because I didn't see, when they rolled the credits. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know her from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And bada bing, it was Linda Thorson.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, there you see. I'm like that too. I see people and I say I recognize I just don't know their name.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think somebody like, for instance, I was thinking we were talking about Ted Lang. But remember, Clifton Davis also was on That's My Mama, and
Right.
then you have to talk about somebody who really had a resurrection career. When he came back, he was not well. He was kind of like co-lead in Amen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amen. And
Yeah.
you know who else was in Amen? So
hmm
you
Yeah.
know, Sherman Hemsley,
hmm
who was George
Yeah.
Jefferson.
George Jefferson,
He
and
was
some
George
people
Jefferson, and people iconically remember George Jefferson. Do you think that they iconically remember him on Amen?
probably not, because I mean, not that they don't remember him. It's just that again, the George Jefferson character was iconic, and even as they see him in the other role in Amen as a deacon or whatever he was, that they still see him as George Jefferson. You know what I mean?
Well, that might be a generational thing.
Yes,
That
probably.
people coming up remember him from Amen.
hmm
People remember him from Good Times. Another thing about Clifton Davis was actually the first show he did, he played himself.
hmm
Okay, I don't think you guys remember this show with him and Melba Moore.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, yeah, he played they played themselves.
Because they were, yes, her show was in the Melvin Moore show,
Yeah.
and
And
she
he
was singing
wrote
the
and he
song.
wrote
What's the
that.
song? This is it. Don't you sing the "This Is It" song? This is it.
I
That's her
remember
song.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then of course
Yeah.
That
Clifton
that was during his
Davis.
songwriting days.
Yeah, he wrote a hit for the Jackson Five, right?
Never Can Say Goodbye.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then he disappeared and became a Seventh Day Adventist minister.
Thank you,
Hmm.
Sonia.
And
I
that's
mean,
when,
yeah,
and now
Are
but
he's,
you a
and now
recruiter?
he's,
You're a
maybe it's
recruiter.
no, I,
but I'm not just saying that, but
my,
then
my
he
mother
does
has
that.
a
Uh-huh.
romantic history with him.
Oh, how nice. Okay, so he went through this, and he did this. He became the minister in the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and it was
And
resurrected as a
had his own
minister.
show on one of the broad cable Christian satellite
I didn't know that.
thing.
That's
Yep.
new. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Um,
And apparently Michael Jackson wanted to marry him too.
That's what they all said back in the day.
uh,
Oh, that was the rumor, the scuttlebutt, as they say.
so
Well, you know what?
now he's on the soap operas.
Oh, is it that
Oh
soap opera?
yeah,
I
that's
can't remember the
right.
name
Beyond the
of it.
Gates. Beyond the Gates.
Yeah, you know
Is that
what? I
still going
tried to
on?
watch that. It
It's
was so
still on.
bad. It made my
I
It's
tried to watch
teeth
that
ache.
once.
It was
I
so
I
bad.
try
tried
to
to
watch
watch
it
it
too.
too,
Yeah,
Penelope, but
no.
I try to
it was
watch it all
bad.
through.
Yeah,
It
It
was
it
needed more
was.
bad.
I'm gonna
juice. It
say
needed
not, and
more
not so much.
juice.
I'm gonna tell you, it's not bad. In the word of bad, it is so. If it was written like 30 years ago, it might be exciting, or 40 years ago, it might be exciting. But the issues they have are so passe.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
my son is
come on.
gay. Are you
Yeah, it's
joking?
like,
My
guys, yeah,
son is
that is
gay.
so passe.
Oh my God! I
Oh
can't
my
believe it.
gosh, they're having an affair. Oh my
They're
God,
having an
come on, y'all.
affair. They're messing
Come on,
around.
y'all. All this so passe.
They're married. They're messing around. Meanwhile, daytime soap operas have moved way beyond that. They're
Yeah,
having sex
yeah,
with aliens
yeah,
and
exactly.
all
That's
this
what I
kind of stuff.
say. I
And
was
we're
thinking, come
talking
on,
about
y'all.
someone being gay.
It's like, come on, y'all. Come on. That
he
is so passe. Or
What
no,
what
he
what
al-
what do you think? Someone's having an affair. It's like, really, y'all? Really? Really? Okay. All right,
what
yeah. I'm sure
you
some
know,
people find that to be, pearl clutching, but I'm sorry. No.
what what well, a show back in the '60s that resurrected a lot of actors, Hollywood actors' careers
hmm
was Batman.
mhm.
Yeah, they all came on the Batman show as these over the top hyperbolic villains. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Otto Preminger,
hmm
Shelley Winters,
Caesar
Burgess Meredith,
Romero.
Caesar
Yeah.
Romero.
Yeah. All
Burgess
of
Um,
them.
Meredith,
Yeah, he
yeah,
just said that. Burgess Meredith. All
Eartha
these people
Kitt.
should Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt.
But
yeah.
Eartha
Mhm.
Kitt, yeah, she did because she was,
She was
a front person.
blacklisted.
Yeah, and now, in that
Yeah.
she was like a main character.
She
She
was the
wasn't like
best.
a
She was the best Catwoman.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because very
And
memorable.
then Eartha came back in the Broadway play Timbuktu.
hmm What is his
And
name? Victor Buono also.
yeah,
yep.
yeah,
hmm
yeah.
King
Um,
Tut.
Yeah.
yeah. Roddy McDowell. you know.
As
But
the clock king,
he was the bookworm.
the bookworm,
Vincent Price is the Eggman or
egghead,
Yeah, yeah, Egghead.
egghead.
Egghead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? I bet you that would be a topic to see how many Hollywood old, silver screen Hollywood people you could come up with that showed up on Batman.
Oh,
You
George
know?
Sands. George Sands. He
Yeah.
did
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
the
Wow.
voice of.
Shere
He was in
Khan.
All About Eve, and he did the
Mm-hmm.
voice
Shere
of.
Khan.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the Jungle Book.
Mm-hmm.
I guess our generations the later generations would be the Love Boat and Fantasy Island when all the
Oh
big
yeah,
names
Ricardo
folks
No,
came
yeah,
back.
Montalban.
yeah, you're right. All those
Yeah,
people. But you know
because you're
what? I gotta
talking
say
about.
this though. But you know when you say that, Sonia, the thing that comes to mind to me is this: that the people who were on Batman, in a way, they were
Mhm.
A-listers, and the people
Yeah.
who showed up on Love Boat were B-listers.
You think so?
I can't think of anybody who. I mean,
You
that's a
know,
whole bunch of B-listers.
I
yeah,
thought
Okay,
but
Rock Hudson was on Love Boat, wasn't
but
he?
a whole bunch of B-listers were
A
on
whole
it.
bunch of
Very
B-lists.
few
yeah,
A-listers.
Love Boat. Well, Love Boat, when you look at it, was a combination of A-listers and B-listers. Because I do believe, I could be wrong, that Gene Kelly appeared on Love Boat, and also another show that was definitely resurrecting B-list careers, television careers, was Murder She Wrote.
Mhm.
Mm.
You know,
We should do that. Have a
Angela.
show. We should do a show just of that one day, of the television shows that resurrected careers, or at least help people pay the rent.
Well, Angela
Um,
Lansbury.
oh
Is that
my
who you're talking about?
gosh!
Is that?
Yes,
But
yeah.
but what? But my question is, what role was she known for before that Murder She Wrote?
But
she was mainly
she's a
Broadway,
movie actress.
but
But I mean,
she
Yeah.
did
what iconic character though?
Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd. She did
Yeah.
on Broadway. A lot of people knew her for Sweeney Todd.
But you go into the Norman Lear universe. You're talking about Sherman Hemsley and etc. You can't forget Carol O'Connor, who was Archie Bunker,
And then in the heat of the
and then
night,
in the
you
heat of the
know,
night.
hmm
Mhm.
Two separate,
we
different
had
kind of
completely different
roles.
types of roles.
Yeah, and don't forget he was maybe he wasn't Santa Claus on Voice to the Bottom of the Sea.
Then maybe he was, maybe he wasn't Santa Claus. Okay, okay.
Another show that resurrected careers was Man from Uncle.
Like I said, okay. Well, the thing is, not so things who's. I mean, we have these shows that resurrect careers, but the people characters in a show, and then
Specific
another
actor.
specific actor, and then into another show. For instance, we have Buddy Ebsen that plays Jed Clampett, of course, in the Beverly Hillbillies, and then later on he shows up again
He got more
as
sophisticated.
he's more sophisticated.
He
Showing up
became Barney B. Jones.
as an Atlanta lawyer, Barnaby Jones.
Was it Atlanta?
I like he's Atlanta.
No.
Was it Matlock who's Atlanta?
Matlock. That was Andy Griffith.
Yeah,
That
Matlock
did
is
that.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Well, here's one. This actor was Marshall Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, and
Yeah.
then he later became Cannon the detective.
What? See, now you
Oh,
got
see, I
me.
think
Now you
you're
got me
talking
freaking
about.
out because I'm
Are you
thinking
talking?
I think it's
Are,
somebody else completely different.
are you talking about the radio show?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
okay, because I'm getting ready to say what's his name who was on Canon. What is his name? Connor. What is his name?
I think Conrad.
Yeah, Robert Conrad. Is it Robert Conrad?
William Conrad.
William Conrad. Because Robert Conrad is
William Conrad. He was the voice of Bullwinkle and
right.
Rocky.
Well,
Visibly he was Jake and the Fat Man, and also
yeah.
Cannon.
Which our daughter has a rip roaring time because she can't believe there's actually a show called Jake and the Fat Man. And when you said it, and she was like, "Really? I said, no, that's a real show. She said, what? That is the title of a real
The real
show.
show.
Yeah,
He was
Jake and the
fat.
Fat Man.
He
And
was
I gotta
fat.
say, when I stay up late and I have those, I used to have I don't sleep the same schedule now, but my old sleep schedule, Otto would go to bed. We stay up, I fall asleep. He'd go to bed. Then I wake up again late at night and to watch, two things, of course, Mannix and Cannon. And then I go back to bed. Mannix
So
and
he was
Cannon.
Cannon, and then he was
Yes.
Jake, and Jake. Well, I put Fat Man. It was
Fat
Jake.
Man.
He was
Yeah,
the
I think he
fat
was
man.
a fat man.
Fat Man. And then the Jack Klugman, right? Who was Oscar Madison.
And then he's Quincy.
Totally
Yeah.
opposite. You couldn't
Quincy
see.
M.D.
I mean, and the thing was about Jack Klugman, even Carol O'Connor in those roles.
Mm-hmm.
I see them. I see Jack Klugman as Oscar Madison,
Yes.
and I also see him as Quincy. When I
Absolutely.
watch each show, I don't think about the other role that they were in.
And I agree that they show they are separate individual people. You don't think of him that Felix is going to walk in the door anytime. You see him as, Quincy, you
Well,
know?
well, that could also be due to the fact that Jack Klugman was a serious actor before
Hmm.
he did The Odd Couple. You know,
The Odd Couple is
Yeah.
serious.
Parts of it. It was kind of a
Yeah,
dark,
I mean it's comedy,
but
but
it's just a Neil Simon
it,
comedy. But
I
I
mean, he
said the
took his
other
role
thing,
seriously.
yeah, yeah.
But
But I
I mean,
say the
you look
one,
at Quincy.
but remember when he
When I
used to
watch
do the
Quincy,
Twilight Zone shows that
well,
they were
that's
more
yeah,
serious,
that's
yeah,
you
that's what
know?
I'm saying. If you
Hmm.
see him on the Twilight Zone, especially the Vietnam War episode,
Oh my God! In Praise of Pip, isn't that
yeah,
yeah.
so
But
sad?
if
Oh,
you watch Andy Griffith, Buddy Ebsen, they may be Buddy Andy Griffith was great as the lead character's face in the crowd. He was great in that.
hmm.
Great in that. But when I see Matlock, I can't help think of Andy Griffith and Mayberry.
Right. But it's interesting when I see him in Face of the Crowd. It is impossible for me to think of Andy Griffith
Yeah,
when
I
he.
know.
That, I mean, that well, he is
Yeah,
so
I don't know. Yeah,
nasty
yeah,
and just. I mean, just a complete and total misanthrope.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, you see him in Matlock. It's like Andy Griffith Esquire.
Andy
He just
Griffith lawyer. Yeah, that's what they used to call Andy Griffith lawyer.
yeah. That's
But
what, and
but
same thing with Buddy Ebsen.
yeah, but I liked the character. In fact, but I liked Andrew Griffith more in Matlock than I liked Buddy Ebsen in what the name of that show was that he does that I can't keep
Barnaby
forgetting.
Jones.
Barnaby Jones. I was not a good, pretty much. I didn't watch Barnaby Jones. I rarely watched Matlock. When I did, I enjoyed it because he's a good actor and he brings like character. And
You're
then I
not
like the
thinking.
relationship, and I
You're not
really like.
thinking. You're not
Mhm.
thinking Andy Griffith when you watch it.
No, because also they had the issue with him and his daughter, a very complex relationship that he had with his daughter in Matlock, and I thought that was an interesting thing to show, people who, they do their thing, they do their job, but in everything, their life is not perfect, and I
Did you
think
see
that's important.
when you see Ted Lang on the Love Boat? Are you thinking Isaac from What's My Mama at
When I
all?
first saw the show, I
That's my mama.
did. When I
Mhm,
first saw the show, I did. But
mhm.
after a while, I did not. But when I first saw it, yes, I did. Didn't
What
you?
about Captain Stubing? Do you see
Ah, I want
Murray?
to
Do
say
you see
this.
Murray from the newsroom?
I'll
Mary
say
Tyler
this.
Moore?
Yeah, I'll say this without Murray, and then to Captain Stubing. I liked Murray. I did not like the Captain Stubing role at all. I mean, he seemed really kind of a stiff, and I always was hoping they'll become more of like the very witty Murray, but you find out in real life that he's actually more like Captain Stubing.
What do you mean
Mm.
real life?
That the actor himself, he's like one of the right wingers and stuff, and so was the guy who played as the purser, Fred Randy. Randy,
Grady, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was a
Yeah, he
right
was in
winger
Congress,
too.
wasn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah,
Yep.
and still, like to me, like I don't know. Again, I look at this stuff like too many people who look at politics as a popularity contest, and he was one of them.
Well, he was great. When I watch it, I gotta say that I see Captain Stubing. I don't see Murray. And when I see Murray, I don't see Captain Stubing. So
Well, that's the
Hmm.
sign of a good character actor.
Yeah, I
You
mean, yeah,
know,
I do not see Murray, but I guess I wished I'd seen more of somebody that was likable, and I did not see that in that role. I didn't particularly like it because of that.
yeah. Well, I think like James said, that's a that's a trait of a good actor, you know.
Or a bad
To,
one,
or what do you mean bad one? What do you mean?
or somebody that's only, like you said, you see him, as one thing or the other. I just think, it wasn't much put into that role at all.
The Captain Stubing role?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
but I mean the the role that he was playing, I kind of think he had to be sort of like the one that, for lack of a better saying, would be like the adult in the room because everybody
Yeah,
else on the ship was, you know,
a little
kind
off kilter.
right,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, maybe, but still.
Well, we were talking about Barnaby Jones. It
Mm-hmm.
also resurrected Lee Merriweather's career.
yeah.
What did Lee
Well,
Merriweather do
she
before that? I know that she was a.
Batman, the TV
Uh,
movie. She was
she
Catwoman,
was
the
a cat.
Batwoman.
Was she the original Catwoman?
Yeah, she was in
Yeah.
the
no,
TV
was
movie.
she? I
Hmm.
mean, in the show, she was not the original.
I think she was.
I
Yes,
thought
because
Julie Newmar was the original one.
The movie came out first.
I thought Julie Newmar was the original
No,
show
I think
Catwoman.
no. Lee Merriweather
No,
was, I believe.
yeah, she was the, and also I think she was Miss America or
Yeah, she's
something
Miss
Yep.
like that.
America.
Yeah.
That's what
And
I
she was,
remember.
and she was on another show, where she was playing like a secretary or something like that. I
Okay,
can't remember.
I
I'm
think she
looking
was on the
through.
time tunnel too.
Yeah, yeah, and
She
like
did before Batman. She did a TV series called The Clear Horizon, and I don't
No, they
remember.
said that no, Julie Newmar is the first Catwoman.
I thought it was Lee
Julie Newmar
Merriweather.
is
No,
first. Nope, she's not.
well, that
I know
lying
it's Julie Newmar.
Wikipedia, that lying Wikipedia,
Wikipedia's not lying to you.
really lying. Well, the ultimate change artist or resurrectionist is Mary Tyler Moore. Boy, she. I mean, she
Yeah.
started off as a pair of legs on what was that? What
What
was that
show is
private
that?
that private detective show? I forgot.
Yeah,
Was it?
yeah. They thought she was missing somebody, and all you saw was her legs. My
I
mom.
think
And
that
and
was 77 Sunset Strip. I could be no,
uh,
it was another show,
it
not
was a private
77.
detective show. She was a pair of legs,
Yeah,
and she got herself fired, according to her.
She was
Her
she was kind of like the how Charlie's Angels.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
You
she
only
all
saw.
she was a pair of legs, and she had the gumption to ask for a raise.
Wow.
I think Peter Gunn. Peter Gunn.
It said you only get paid for the piece of the body that's showing. Only your
I
legs,
think it
so you're
was.
gonna get paid for
I think it was
half.
Peter. Yeah, I think it
no,
was Peter Gunn.
no, it
Was it?
wasn't Peter Gunn.
Was it
No.
Peter Gunn?
I don't know
No,
what it was, but I remember my mom talking about it.
Yeah, she was a pair of legs, and then she went on to be Mrs. Rob Petrie on the Dick Van
Mm-hmm.
Dyke Show.
Yeah.
And then you know how some of these roles can be problematic. When she began her own show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the producer said, "Oh, we can't have Mrs. Rob Petrie be divorced, so she
Yeah, because
wasn't
people would think that she was
that she got
divorcing
divorced
Rob
from Dick Van
Petrie.
Dyke. Although that show was
Yeah.
off the air for a while,
Yeah, but y'all people are. Yeah, but I can
so
understand that. People think she's divorced. They go, oh my gosh, she divorced Rob. You know?
yeah,
Oh no.
I hate her. Why would she leave such a wonderful
Yeah,
husband?
yeah, exactly. That'd be funny though.
Yeah,
The show where she was the legs was Richard Diamond, Private Detective.
Ah,
I
there we
knew.
go.
Okay, I know it was a private detective show.
Yeah.
I know something my mom had talked about, but I'd never seen it.
That's way before our time. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So she was
1956. Yeah.
right
Yeah,
before our
I know
time.
it, man.
So her legs, it showed her legs, and then she was
And they
Rob
said
Petrie's.
we paid you for the amount of your body. So we said it's like 1/3 of your body was showing.
Well,
And
let me
that's
ask you
how we got
this:
paid.
And then
if
she
all you
played
had to do
a
was show you, if all you had to do was show your legs, would you be asking for a raise?
Yeah. People
You
know my
would?
legs. They hear my voice, even though they don't see my head. They hear my voice, right?
But you
That's
you
okay.
easily replaceable though.
Yeah, but
Well,
the
they
show
did do
only
it.
lasted 1 year, so
Oh, never mind. Anyway,
Never mind.
never mind. Anyway,
Never
it only
mind.
it had David Jansen in it. Another
Okay.
person who had his career.
oh
Multiple
my God,
careers.
that guy.
The Fugitive is the one that we will all,
Yeah.
I think, remember the most. You know, I mean,
Well, what other show? What other show is he known for besides The Fugitive?
my
Harry
gosh.
O.
Yeah, Harry O. That was later. We were growing up. They had a whole bunch of detective type shows, and that was one of them.
Yeah, that detective show, and
Yeah.
also, and you remember Zorro? Guy
Zorro?
Williams. Guy
Guy
Williams.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Then he's Zorro, and then he's also Dr. Robinson.
I'm also a dad.
Yeah, Dr. Robinson. You know,
I'm a dad on Lost in Space.
in Lost in Space. Yeah, which is very good.
On Swashbuckler, and I'm also a
Yeah.
dad. And then, of course, his wife, June Lockhart.
Yes.
June Lockhart did everything.
Boy, she did everything from like Lassie's, Timmy's
Yeah.
mother,
Mhm,
Timmy's mother to
mhm.
Lost in Space to SpongeBob's grandmother's voice.
Mm-hmm.
That I remember meeting her, and she had pictures from every single project she ever worked at because she didn't know which fans would want what kind of picture. So
Right.
she made
So
That
sure
makes
many.
she
sense.
had.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And celebrities nowadays is like, well, I only brought this because this was a science fiction convention. What do you mean you want a picture of me from something else?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's like going to a Star Trek convention,
Uh-huh.
and then somebody say, "Hey, give me that picture of T.J. Hooker."
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, because
Mm.
yeah, but the thing is, because there's so many different fans now. But yeah, she even paid the Babylon 5 staff photographer to take a picture of her and Bill Mummy, even though they didn't have any scenes together when she guested on Babylon 5,
That's
because
nice.
she
Right.
knew that people would want to see them
Yeah,
together.
that's nice.
That's
Okay,
great.
Also, I
now
had to say, but before we move on, we were talking about Guy Williams. I just wanted to say, for the record, and I went and looked up to make sure I was correct, that his birth name, he was born Armando Joseph Catalano.
So
yeah.
That is his
he
name.
was Zorro.
Yeah, Armando
I mean,
Joseph
if you
Catalano.
listen closely when you watch some episodes of Lost in Space, that accent tends to sneak
Sometimes,
out. Yeah.
yeah. Oh boy, I'll listen more closely. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was very, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, to be a Hispanic actor,
Oh, he was Latin, Italian.
Italian.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he wasn't Zorro. Never mind what I was going to say. But to be an ethnic actor, I guess, and then play Zorro, but he shouldn't have been playing Zorro because it was a Italian
Hmm.
guy, not a Hispanic dude. And then go on to play a role which is an iconic role, which is seems more, I
Hmm.
guess nowadays considered white. So
Who? Well, with the
so that
name, well, the things, but remember though, because like it's like his Doctor, Robinson, right? But
yep,
look like pretty like Bernie Williams, that he
you
is
never know,
yeah,
right,
you never know. A lot of people who are Hispanic have names that we commonly associate with Anglos.
right,
Mhm.
right. So I mean that's all over the place. Like I said, June Lockhart is one of those roles that's all over the place
Hmm.
and shows up in different places. And who remembers T.J. Hooker? I
Only
mean,
because it's
Uh,
such a joke. Only because it's such a joke. You remember it.
oh, I remember it.
and he looks
Uh,
like he looks like Captain Kirk in a police
Yep.
uniform.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't think of
But
him
you know
you
what?
can't think of him anywhere else,
Hmm.
any place else.
Hmm.
And
I,
almost the
I,
same with Leonard Nimoy. It's almost the same with Leonard Nimoy. I
It's
mean, Leonard
hard to
Nimoy.
see him in Mission Impossible
Yeah,
because I always saw him as Spock. It
oh,
was very
I,
difficult.
I want to
well,
look at his
well,
ears. Don't you
Hmm.
want to look at his ears on Mission Impossible? Look at your
well.
ear.
With him, it was kind of easy to see him in other on other TV shows and stuff like that because he was a pretty good character actor before Star Trek. You know, I
Yeah, but
mean,
it's like watching him. Could you forget Star Trek by watching him on Mission Impossible?
It was hard for me to watch him in Mission Impossible.
nah. For
And then
me,
there was some films that some which are the movie of the week type things I saw with him in it, and it was hard for me to see. I think by the time he was in what was it, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I think he was in one of
Yeah,
those
it
that
still looked like Spock to me.
I was able to see him in that role,
You
but
saw
yeah,
it
him in
took a
that
long
movie.
time. It took a
yeah,
long time.
yeah. Now
in Fringe, you it could
Yeah, and I could
see
see in Fringe definitely I saw him as the role that he played in Fringe, which is the
mhm.
eccentric on the other dimension guy.
Dr. Bell. Yeah.
I thought he was good in that.
I mean, with him again, because he was a pretty good character actor. Now with William Shatner, everything he did, he stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, remember the Barbary Coast
Yeah, that too.
where he would put on, even when he would put on a disguise, it was like, okay, you know,
Right, right. It's like okay,
I
it's
see
it's hard to see
you.
him as anything else but
Yeah,
Captain Kirk.
Yeah,
yeah, and
you
especially
know.
because his cadence when he speaks,
Yeah,
it's
so
just
it's
like
like Captain Kirk is a cop.
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
He's
I,
a
I, mean,
cop.
I mean, Have you guys ever saw him in the Brothers Kasimov?
No, I don't think
No.
so.
He
No.
he sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh
Well, he
wow.
also
Well, what?
William
Okay.
Shatner is also prone to overacting,
Yeah. I mean, and again, he has a cadence that he speaks in, that
Yeah,
halting cadence that
and I think
means
that goes
everything.
well. I think that overacting
Mm-hmm.
kind of cadence is well adapted to Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
and the movies. And the thing about Captain Kirk is not only are you in the original series, but you're in all these Star Trek movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, how
And
can
so
people
you're
see you
doubling
anything?
down, yeah, with that, and everybody knows you as that.
The same thing with Leonard Nimoy. I mean, how could it's like you're in all these movies and stuff.
and I mean sometimes, listen, you got to pay the mortgage, you got to pay your rent. So some
Mm-hmm.
actors just will just run with it. This is who I am, and I'm gonna milk it for all it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
look at you had one actor that was a serious actor, and then he just by the '70s just went off into a whole different direction with comedy. And I think you guys know who I'm talking about.
Leslie
No.
Nielsen.
Yeah,
I say,
Les,
yeah, well, yeah, he definitely did. Oof.
yeah,
And so well. And so well.
And
But
so
you think about
well
somebody like
that
Fred McMurray, who had a
and
career first being
so
an
well
actor,
right and so
in
well
serious
with
film.
Leslie Nielsen that
Hmm.
if you saw in his later life and career, if you saw him on screen, you would think he's going to pull some prank. He's going to get ready to.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
He's going to
and,
do
and
something to
Yeah.
make me laugh.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean with Fred McMurray. See, I saw him in My Three Sons,
Yep.
and
Before I
you,
ever saw him
hey,
anything serious.
You saw it backward. You saw it
Yes,
backward.
I
Yeah.
did. Didn't
yeah,
you?
I saw him in, what is it, Double Indemnity?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. No, mine
Boy,
was
that guy nasty.
oh no, what was the one?
And forget that and the apartment.
The Apartment. That's the one that I saw
Yeah,
first.
after
Wow.
seeing
Wow.
that,
I was so shocked.
I was like, you bastard.
He's
Right.
scum,
Wow.
He is
Wow. I mean, he been
scum.
doing a lot of stuff in the movie. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden he's a shredder. All of a sudden he's a shredder wearing his dad. It's
Yeah.
like,
Like
you
he's
take
coming up
that
with some
sweater
rotten
off, you
ideas.
hypocrite.
Like, you bastard.
You take
bloody
that dad
bastard.
sweater off.
Yeah. We know all about you
We all
now.
about you, man. You
Yeah.
been trying to get down with other people's wives and trying to kill people and stuff.
Yeah, well, we
And
know
you
all
got
about you
you got
now.
the key to the apartment when you
Oh my
take your secretary have now you want to put on a dad sweater? You
Get
son
out
of
of
a
here.
bitch.
Yeah, I mean that person started these very serious roles and then rolling into things that were like I said, what is it called? Flubber, right? He did Flubber.
Oh, he did
Yeah.
Flubber. That's
You
right, he
know
did.
that those films, and and he's like this nice guy, and he's a little professor,
He
and
not so nice
oh
and
my gosh,
he not so
yeah.
nice at Double Indemnity on the apartment.
Nor
He
the
not so
Apartment.
nice.
That was terrible.
He not so nice. No.
And see what it is with some actors. Some actors they get tired of playing the good guy,
Hmm.
so they break bad, and some
Hmm.
actors get tired of being the bad guy, so they break good. I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was the case with Jack Palance. Okay,
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
Jack
Yeah,
Palance.
yeah.
Yeah. He was
yeah,
always the bad guy. He
He's
was
a
bad
bad
guy
guy.
in
Yeah.
Shane.
but
Yeah.
but later he did a private eye show where he was a good guy.
Yeah, then of
And
course
then the City
the movie
Slickers.
Slickers,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Then he was funny.
Yeah.
He was funny. He was mean funny. You know, like
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
funny. You know.
He's in a what you call it, a show, so a comedy, playing a role in a comedy. And I thought great.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
'Cause
you know,
some
if you
people
talk about Jack Klugman, you got to talk about Tony Randall.
Yeah. He played like
Pre
the kind of
pre odd
lead.
couple,
Yeah.
and post odd couple.
He lead romantic leads that he
yeah,
did pre
yeah,
Odd Couple.
yeah.
What
Was
is it? What is the
Success
one
for
about?
Rock Hunter?
Yeah, it was Success for Rock Hunter. Yeah, that
I
one.
I think with
And
Tony
the genie one
Randall,
too. What was that? I
uh,
dream. Do you remember the
Lau,
genie? The
Doctor
genie was like
Lau.
what you call it for I Dream of Genie. It's the first. Is actually the film that precipitated I Dream of Genie. Brass Bottle.
With
Real
James'
Lives.
favorite actor, Burl Ives.
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah, that one. I thought you were talking about where he pit, he was all done up as an Asian person.
Oh no, the brass bottle. That's the one.
Yeah,
The
The brass
precursor to
bottle, yeah.
Genie.
but
Precursor to Genie.
I think with, and mind you, Tony Randall had a nice little career in radio
I didn't
before
know
he,
that.
yeah, he had a nice little career in radio. I think with him in the early to mid '60s, right before the Odd Couple, the studio had him as an A-list actor, but I think the projects that they had him do weren't that good.
Mm.
Weren't that good because I think he also played like a knockoff of Inspector Clouseau.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, some back then it was international intrigue. Yeah,
Hmm.
Hmm.
he. I think just like with Don Knotts, they get the 3, 4 movie contract with the big studio, but the studio didn't know really what to do.
Well, you know what though? You say Don Knotts,
Right,
but the movies that Don Knotts appeared in after he appeared. Well, let's go back to Don Knotts. So everybody knows him as Barney Fife.
right.
That's an iconic role. And then he goes off to do these movies like the Ghost of Mr. Chicken, the Incredible Mr. Limpet, the Shakiest Gun in the West. And so
Hmm.
when you watch those, you really don't see Barney Fife, but it's also he's still in this kind of role that is kind of shaky, kind of, but it's funny too at the same time.
Yeah,
Uh, The
yeah,
Reluctant Astronaut, he did
yeah.
so many of those. Like you
Don't.
said, a five
Mhm.
picture deal or something.
Yeah, don't forget. What was that picture? The Love Machine. I think he did. Where
I
he was.
think so. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so all those films are funny as hell, and then he comes back out of the movie thing, and then he becomes what's the name of the landlord in Three's Company?
Right.
Mr. Furley.
Yeah.
Mr. Furley in Three's Company, and you watch him on as Mr. Furley, you don't see Barney Fife. At
No,
least I
you
don't.
don't.
No,
You don't.
Yeah.
Like, cause it was still comedy, but he kind of
a very different
tweaked it.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, tweaked it. It's the same thing like Captain Steuben. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but with him, they wanted comedy, but they was like, okay, let John Ritter do the zany comedy,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you just be the butt of the joke,
Yeah.
Right.
butt of the jokes and whatnot,
Yeah,
with
because
with
he did a lot. I mean, he did a. I don't think the movies he did was failures. I mean, he did almost all those movies. I
and
guess I could call myself a fan because I've seen all of them.
yeah, I listen. I hate to date myself, but I can actually remember going to the neighborhood movie theater and seeing a couple of his movies.
Really.
Yeah, I remember. I can remember sitting in the Ward Theater seeing the Ghost and
Chicken.
Mr.
Mr. Chicken,
Chicken.
yeah,
I love that film.
The credible Mr.
Mr.
Limpet, the
Limpet.
reluctant
Yeah.
Yeah,
astronaut,
yeah.
Yeah.
The Shakiest Gun in the
Shakiest
West.
Gun of
Shaky
the
Gun in the
West.
West.
Yeah.
It was always Don Knotts and some some buxom beauty as they call them.
Yeah.
In each
Yeah.
one of his
Right.
movies, there was
Hmm.
always something
Yeah.
like
His
that.
hookup. He got some major hookup. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and all of his movies was like that. The Shakiest Gun, Mr.
Hmm.
Limpet, except the Limpet thing was like he was trying to get
Creepy.
down with a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked
Yeah.
it because it was a cartoon,
Yeah, because we
but
were children. It was a
yeah,
cartoon.
it's a
Okay. That's
cartoon.
basically it.
Uh,
Children
and
cartoon.
and I give you a quick trivia thing. Go back to the Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Hmm.
There's a scene where he's trying to get on the elevator, and the elevator operator can't get the elevator
To go straight, get the right, it goes up and
right.
then down. Yeah. Okay.
I
Yes.
hate I hate to say it, but they bit that from Abbott and Costello.
Yeah. I'm sure that's
Yeah,
a.
one of their movies they did the same exact scene.
Mm,
That was so funny. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
I
was.
could watch. I mean, you could do a Don Knotts retrospective of movies.
yes.
He did a 5 picture deal. I don't think, in my mind, in my estimate, any of them were duds. They're really funny. I
was
thought.
he
Yeah.
was listen, he was the man. He was the man
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
point. And I mean even when he got together with Tim Conway and did Apple Dumpling Gang.
Oh
Yeah.
that
You
was
know,
good. That was
Yeah,
good.
but the thing about Barney Fife and Don Knotts is that usually comedy thing is like you're coupled with a straight man. I think
Mhm.
he's one of those guys. He was his own straight man. He
Yeah, he
was
was
just
strong enough
he
to
was his
manage
own
it.
straight man.
Yeah, his own silliness.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he didn't need a straight man because he was doing it himself, and he was very funny in all those roles, and I think people just connected with him. But even the Barney Fife character and Andy Griffith,
yeah,
people
Hmm.
connected with him.
yeah, and the thing about it, all this started basically with the Steve Allen show. You
Mm,
know, he
that's
was
way back.
yeah, that's way back. He was the they had this thing they called the man on the street, and they would interview people on the street, and they came across this real
Nervous.
this real
That was his persona,
Yeah,
nervousness.
yeah,
yeah,
and I think
like a human avatar of a chihuahua.
Yeah,
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 right. A human,
right.
right? It's shaking all the time, right?
And
Yes.
and I think they asked him, well, what's your profession? And I could be wrong, but I think he said, oh, well, I'm a bomb
Bomb.
disposal
Yeah, yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
mhm.
mean, he rode that persona all the
Yeah,
way, boy.
yeah. He sure
Yeah,
did.
he was very good on that. And then in that same show, you got Ron Howard,
Hmm. That's
who's
right.
Opie,
Opie.
and like Eddie Murphy used to call him Opie Taylor.
Oh, yeah, Opie Cunningham.
Opie Cunningham, excuse me, Opie
Yes, Opie
Cunningham,
Cunningham. Yeah.
because he was Opie on that show,
Uh huh.
and then you see him later on Happy
Richie
Days
Cunningham. Yeah.
and Richie Cunningham, but you don't think of Opie when you watch it.
No, no, no. Really don't. And the things I got to say about Ron Howard, by the time he became Richie Cunningham, he was a lot older than he looked. Doing that role. I think
Yeah,
because yeah, he was in the Music Man as a child, so
yeah,
you can imagine how old he was. But yeah, he just stayed looking young for a very long time.
yeah. I mean, looking at him in the Andy Griffith Show and Happy Days, it was almost
Mm-hmm.
like night and day.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, because he was a kid, he was a little kid, in the his happy days. I mean, his Eddie Griffith days. So yeah, I thought that was all very interesting. That movement, you see him get older and then leave, acting altogether, and really enter directing full time. I thought that was a very interesting thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you say the same about Robin Reiner, right?
Yeah,
Although you can't really
but he
show
did.
another
But he did
iconic
act.
role,
He did act after he was a director. He did do a few acting
but
things.
he doesn't have another iconic role though.
No, he does not have an iconic role. Michael Stivic was his iconic role.
That was it. I like
Mhm.
Danny DeVito, who was on Taxi, right?
Yes.
And you've got a bunch of resurrectionists on that show, Taxi. So you
Hmm.
got Danny DeVito, who's what's his name? What is his name on the show? Penelope
Before Taxi,
on Taxi. What was his name?
Louis
Louis
Louis De
Louis De
Palma.
Palma. Louis De Palma
Hmm.
on Taxi, and then it
Hmm.
became Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Right,
Oh my
right now.
gosh, yeah, yeah. Now he's still in that role. It was,
In between,
his name.
in between he's Penguin,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
before he
Wow.
was
Wow.
he was one of the mentally challenged, I guess, challenged people. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the
Yeah, the
movie.
inmates in One Flew Over the
Inmates,
Cuckoo's Nest.
right?
Yeah,
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, along with
along with Reverend Jim,
right, who was
who
also an
also
inmate.
Hmm.
also went from
Hmm.
the role, from that one of those inmates from the asylum. Then he's Reverend Jim, and then does the Back to the Future um franchise.
Right,
And
and
now he is in the what is the franchise?
nobody.
The Nobody franchise, which I love. So yeah, absolutely. Christopher, wait, but just in my head,
Lloyd,
Christopher
Lloyd.
Lloyd, Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah,
And the
that
funny
is
thing,
great.
is that when DeVito was on Taxi, Christopher Lloyd was a struggling actor on Broadway with minor roles, and they needed someone to do a brief role on Taxi, and Danny DeVito said, "I know a guy," and he got Christopher Lloyd to come on the show. It's supposed to be a 1 episode appearance,
Isn't that amazing? You know, you
and he
come
turned
on
it turned into I think TV Guide did the like 200,
25. I think
most
25
iconic
top
characters on
iconic
television.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd were 2 of them.
but see, he got tired of the whole thing, so he went to, after a while he went and joined the Klingon Empire.
Yes,
That's true. Right.
That too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm saying these people are excellent character actors. I mean,
And you don't see them. I
yeah.
mean, when you see them, you don't see the best ones. The best resurrectionists, the best ones are ones that have a different role, and you don't really
you don't see
watch
the
it. You don't see the other role.
That's how Christopher Lloyd is. I don't see him as Reverend Jim when I see him in Nobody. Always saw him as it was Doc Brown in the Back to the Future films. I never never saw them as the same person ever.
Right.
Yeah, because see, this is what I love about character actors is that they go and they do their job, and they don't stick out, so to speak. You know, because you get some actors. I mean, my God, if you see a Tom Cruise movie, you can't help but notice
it's Tom Cruise.
That was Tom Cruise.
That's Tom Cruise. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I love. I love character actors that even though I know who they are, like Leonard Nimoy. Yeah, I knew it was Leonard Nimoy in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but he did just enough to make me forget.
Forget about Spock.
Yeah,
forget about
Spock. You know, but some lead actors or A-list stars, they just. I mean, I hate to say it, I love some of his work, but when I see an Al Pacino movie, it's Al Pacino.
It's Al Pacino doing Al Pacino things.
Yeah. You know, and my God, you back in the day, if you was a fan of John Wayne,
it was a John Wayne movie. It was all that.
Yeah, and it was, to me, it was an ego trip for some that is, you know.
Yeah, because remember, John Wayne was in countless westerns, right? And then all of a sudden, later on in life, where he could barely move, he wanted to become a cop, like a detective or something. Right? Like McClintock.
You know, yeah, I don't know.
He could barely bend out. If he dropped his gun, that gun was going to stay dropped. He's not going to bend over and pick it up. He can't bend over and pick it up.
Pick that up for me. You know?
Yeah.
So,
stiff as it. What about John Amos? Right, one of the sad. What you call it, John Amos?
Yes.
He was Gordy the weatherman on Mary Tyler Moore show, and then he was James Evans on Good Times.
No. He was Henry Evans.
Evans at first. Yeah.
Oh, Henry Evans on Mars.
Yeah, that's
he had a
brief
respite.
Yeah, a brief role there.
Yeah, and then he came back as James Evans on Good Times. And then he briefly reappeared on Mary Tyler Moore as Gordy the Weatherman.
Yeah, that's right.
But remember before that, he was in Sweetback's Badass song.
I don't remember that.
I don't
remember anything about Sweetback.
I know Earth, Wind and Fire did the what you call it for, but I never saw it.
I know the film exists. I remember seeing bits and pieces of it. Remember
I've
the
never
time
seen any of it.
we were watching bits. It's like we're watching it but not watching it. It's like background noise.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah,
and something else. Yikes!
If you go back to it, you'll see that he's, I think, a motorcycle biker that helps. He helps Sweetback get away, you know, and whatnot. And another thing about him, he was trying to get on to one of my favorite football teams, Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And Hank Stram called him into the office, and he's like, "Listen, you didn't make the cut, you know, in spring training, not spring. Well, you know." Preseason, yeah, and he said, Hank Stram told him, he said, but you have a lot of talent. He said, don't be dissuaded by that. So John Amos said, well, let me try some acting, and that's how he got into it. Yeah.
But the good thing about John Amos, I guess he's a good actor because when I see him on Good Times, I do not see Gordy the Weatherman. And when I see
Yes,
him
and
on
when I
Mary
see
Tyler
him,
Moore,
Mm-mm.
when I see him
yeah.
on Mary Tyler Moore,
Hmm.
I don't see James Evans. You
Well,
know,
how
I
about when he was
mean,
in Roots? What did you see any of the carryover when he was
he
in
did
Roots?
good. No, I mean, I saw him as Kunta
Kunta
Kinte.
Kinte. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you
Mm.
know the same thing with LeVar Burton. Now LeVar Burton, everybody knows. There's more people, I believe, that knows LeVar Burton as on Star Trek:
It's
The Next
Jordy.
Generation
Yeah.
than know him as Kunta
Kunta
Kinte,
Kinte.
the original the
That's
original slave.
generational, though,
Yeah, this
Otto. I
because
think
for
That's
my
Kunta
generational.
Kinte.
because
The
for
other,
That's
myself, it's like, oh my gosh,
generational.
Kunta Kinte is what I
Yeah,
would.
and
Yeah.
I know him as
it's
Kunta
more
Kinte.
more people know. The more people out there remember him from reading Rainbow.
That's true.
You
That's
think
true.
yeah,
there's
There,
more people that know him as Reading Rainbow than
when
either
you go,
Kunta
when you
than
see
Kunta
him,
Kinte than Kunta Kinte or Next Generation?
when you see him going at conventions, more people come up to him and talk to him about reading
Reading
Rainbow
Rainbow.
than any of the other two
yeah,
shows.
I think because it makes had such an effect on people.
Hmm.
it's generational. You
Hmm.
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that's what I
our
said. It's
generation
generational.
knows him as Kunta Kinte,
I'm one of
But
those who
also
know him as
Reading
Kunta
Rainbow. Yeah,
Kinte.
reading Rainbow.
and
Okay,
Reading
and
Rainbow.
in between that, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Because
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
frankly, when I first saw that he was going to be the next generation, I was like, what?
You didn't think he could do it?
Well, there's
I
a lot.
didn't.
I didn't know what they had in store for him.
Well, there's
Yeah,
a lot of teenagers are slightly younger than us. Remember him from all the afternoon school specials. He
yeah,
did a whole bunch of those.
I remember
yeah,
him from Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
That's what I was gonna say. I remember
Hmm.
him
yeah.
kicking Richard Gere's ass on
Yeah,
Threatening
Yeah,
King's
I
yeah,
ass,
remember
trying to kick
that.
his ass. Yeah.
and and I said to myself when I watched the film, this little guy can't kick nobody's ass. Why is that white man scared of him?
Well,
Look how little
because
he
he meant
is.
it. But still,
He's so
somebody
little.
comes to
He
you
was
and
so
they mean
little.
it. And some
He
people
was
come to you and they
little.
mean it. They're gonna kick your ass. You believe it.
Yeah, it's like okay, that's what scares this guy away. But I remember him in Looking for Mr. Goodbar. But I think that if I had to choose which role, I think for me that I remember him most in would be the Star Trek: Next Generation,
Hmm.
I
more
Yeah.
would
than
be
Reading.
Roots. Might be Roots.
Yeah, I
Every
don't think
time
he
I
was
see
it. To
LeVar
me,
I
Burton,
mean, Roots is like he was. I mean, that was like for
that
he
was
was at the
yeah.
beginning, but he's not in there long enough.
well for me. I mean, he was in the first
He's the
what
first thing you
couple
see.
episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not
Exactly.
in there. Yeah, but I'm brain damaged, and so
Yes, you
I don't
are. I
see him
agree.
as long.
Oh
Well,
my
I
gosh! Well,
remember
he was. I mean, for the perspective, and I say mine for young black women, he was an icon. I mean,
Yes.
he was just magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say, from my
But you know what?
perspective, I remember.
I'm gonna say like I'm gonna say like our current resident in the White House. I'm gonna say I like African black men, but I don't like African black men who got caught and became slaves.
Okay,
You
thank
know,
you,
Gosh,
thank you for that.
be quiet.
You no.
I mean, he got literally. I think somebody threw a
Hmm.
net over him.
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
Oscar.
Somebody threw a net over him. I said, "What the
Yeah,
f?"
that happened. That wasn't fun.
Okay,
That was not
moving
I'm just
right
fun.
along.
saying. I'm just saying.
It's
I'm
okay.
just
Yeah,
saying.
right.
It looked kind of weird to me. So I think that when you look at and then LeVar tried to do that game show. Remember that?
Yeah, but I think the game show for what is it?
Because
Trivial
He,
Pursuit.
he did get picked for Jeopardy, right?
Yeah, right.
yeah,
But I think for Trivial Pursuit, for that, I think they did not figure out the game well enough. I think they did not have a good idea of how it should roll.
Okay,
You
that
Mm-hmm.
know,
came. That came. It went so fast. I know
And it
nothing
did.
about
I never
that.
got a chance to see it.
because
I
it,
didn't
it
even
was
know it was.
not well conceived. I don't think they
It
thought.
wasn't real. It wasn't well conceived. And I
Hmm.
think to be honest, I think given the time, he would have made a great Jeopardy host. But I think to me, he looked uncomfortable as Jeopardy host.
Yeah, something. I don't know what happened, but yeah, he seemed
I really was
uncomfortable.
pulling for him to get it, though. I really
Me
wanted
too.
him.
Me too. I think he
He
would have been
just had
great.
to get. I mean, I think he would have done very well if he, given him a chance. and just let the show go for a few weeks. I think he would have.
Yeah,
I
but
think he would have gone very well, but
I
they didn't
just
want to
think
do
that,
that.
yeah, I think that in all honesty, it's like something you have to. I mean, if you're walking into something in the shoes of someone like Alex Trebek, it can be, to my mind, a little intimidating.
He would have gotten used to it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, yeah, he would need time to,
Yes.
you know, get into
Yeah,
it. I
that's
think it was a bunch of bull hinky the way they did the
Mm-hmm.
thing,
The way
bringing
that
him
guy
in
did
there.
that, yeah, the guy
Yeah,
set
it
that up.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a loaded. He was. I don't think he wanted anybody to get it. They
He
made
didn't.
him.
He was going to do it
Yeah,
himself.
No,
yeah.
no,
They
he
just
wanted to get it. He wanted
Yeah,
to
he
get
was going
it.
to do it
Yeah.
himself,
yeah
but had all these people coming just basically, in all honesty.
right.
Somebody like
Waste their
LeVar
time.
Burton is going to
But it's
bring
like
in a lot
that
of
guy must
viewers,
have been an ogre, on the job because like he was an asshole and nobody and everyone was afraid to tell other people that he was an a-hole. No, so
Because
he must.
he was also that way on the previous show. I can't remember which one
Mm,
he did it. This was his second time being
mm,
the jerk on the show.
mm,
Hmm. What an a-hole.
yeah. Because if you knew that you were going to do it yourself, why bother even having auditions?
Right.
Yeah, it's just a cosplay thing for him
Right. I mean, it
because
was a
he's
marketing scam. That's
yeah
all.
he always going to pick himself. And what
Right.
happened to the woman with the two PhDs or something? I forget her name.
I know you're
The one
talking about because I was thinking of her too just now, who was in what's the name of the show? The little girl
Uh,
dancing around. What's her name? Blossom.
was it Blossom?
Yes, wasn't it?
uh Balik or Balik.
yeah.
Yes, Bialik. Miriam
Yeah,
Bialik.
never seen or heard from again. Right?
Oh, she was
Mhm.
on. She finished out Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
She was Sheldon's love interest on Big Bang Theory,
Oh, okay. I don't watch that show.
and
Me
she's
either.
got her own podcast now.
I don't listen to that podcast.
So,
Me either.
So,
but it
but
did. Yeah, Big Bang has revived her career.
Hmm.
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
what about?
and I mean, you would be surprised how because actually between Blossom and Big Bang, she went back to college, I
Yep,
Hmm.
believe.
she's
Yeah.
a neuro. I can't remember full term. Hold on,
She's not a surgeon. She's
neurologist.
something else. Yeah,
She's a
Hmm.
neurologist.
right. Which is what
Yeah.
which is what my
Neuroscientist.
which is what I tell my probation officer that I am. So, but
Thank you.
yeah. So you got Sarah Jessica Parker. Anybody?
Yes, from Square Pegs
And then
Yeah.
originally.
Sex in the City and
Hmm.
Yeah, Sex of the City. Which neither shows is she sexy.
Mm-mm.
Not even the resurrection of the show. It's like, yeah, really.
Well,
That's what
yeah.
people who are not
Well,
from New York
yes,
City, who are
I
not
guess.
from New York City, consider sexy.
Well, I
Hey.
guess the thing is, they look at it and they see, that she is a person that wears the nice clothes and stuff like that. That is
I guess
more like her
is that
effect.
a more a show directed at women more than men? Or
I think it probably is.
I watch the show. I mean, I watch it every time
Yes.
it came on. But the
Hmm.
thing is that how the stereotype of the woman walking past a construction site
Hmm.
and getting wolf whistles and stuff
Hmm.
she would not be one of those. I mean, I'm I'm not trying to be
Yeah, and
sexist or
I know
sound
what you're
sexist or
saying, that
anything, but
she have great fashion sense, but it's not.
nobody's looking at her.
Yeah. I get you.
Nobody cares about her red bottoms, although she put red bottoms into
No, she
the
didn't wear red
space.
bottoms. Hers
She didn't wear
were Manila Blahniks.
Manolo Blahniks. Okay,
Yes.
okay. I thought she put red bottoms into the general.
No, it was
Um,
Manila Blahnik.
okay,
She put into the zeitgeist.
okay. But it resurrected her career,
Yeah,
and
sure
she's
did.
held on to it
Sure did.
like a
But
wildcat.
yeah,
That's just the only role she plays anymore, right?
Well,
yeah.
again, that's what some people do. If you got to pay the rent, you
I mean,
you gotta
some
do what you.
people, if you can imagine how many of these people have secondary careers just going to conventions and things like that,
hmm
where people just
Which
do,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, which was that was people used to people that did movies and television years ago, decades ago, and they used to look down their noses.
Remember that
Mhm, for
Saturday Night
sure.
Live sketch
For
with William Shatner?
yes, you know,
Where he's like bugging out because he got to talk to people that and they ask him questions about,
yeah,
so if you go on Rigel 5 and you have to get transported, why is it that Scotty and blah 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 and William Shatner like shut up, let me alone.
it's not real.
It's a TV show.
He said,
It's
"Get
not
a
real.
life."
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
but that's paying
now,
its bills now.
Not
yeah,
anymore.
this stuff is serious business. A lot of people come to know that if you get on the right series, you can get on that circuit, and that's, I mean,
yeah,
to pay for the rest of your life.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you got some people that only did one episode.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, I was the red shirt that got killed at the
Yeah,
beginning.
Yeah.
no joke.
Oh my
Yeah,
God! I was a red shirt that got turned into a cube, and then
Yeah,
that alien crushed me
yeah,
like a thing of salt.
right.
That was
Remember
you.
he?
Yes,
Oh my
man.
God, that's
uh,
fantastic.
Let me take my pick with you. Come on, I'm gonna
Yeah,
stick.
come on.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm with it. I mean, a lot of people they have careers now
hmm
based on the fact that they were in a show. I think it's
Now,
fantastic.
speaking of that show, but that person got turned into a pillow of whatever it was and crushed. Didn't everybody
Cube.
think it was the brother that got crushed? Didn't
Yes, I
everybody think?
Yeah,
did.
You said
yeah.
that
Oh
black? They crushed that black
no.
dude.
Oh my God,
That's
they
what
did it
I
to us
thought.
again. Oh man, that was what you call it though. That was
And then
great
they
though.
found out they
Hmm.
crushed the white woman, and then
Oh
everybody
man,
like,
they
oh
must have
man.
lost their stuff
Okay.
then. It's
I
like,
was amazed
man,
that was so close.
phew, that was close.
Right.
That was
Everybody looking
close.
at the black guy like,
Yeah, it's
man,
like I'm mad at him because he survived. You know you're not supposed to
take your ass back to the
survive.
ship. You,
You know.
okay, with that episode, that he was a red shirt, right?
I
Yeah, I
think
think
he
he
was.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
They were
that
both turned into cubes.
that same actor, right? That
Hmm.
same actor, he's had a nice little career doing commercials. Don't know his name. Don't know his name, but every now
Cube
and then,
man.
Cube Man, yeah. Every
Cute
now and
man.
then, over the years, he pops up in commercials.
I didn't know
Well,
that.
good for
Yeah.
him. But they don't
See?
turn him into a cube, and he lives all the time though.
Well, you have people showing up in commercials. You have Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, right?
Which is crazy.
Who's in
Yes.
Welcome Back, Carter, and before then he
Hmm.
was in
He was
a Coo-
Cochise,
Cooley
and
High.
yeah, he was
Man, you said,
Cochise
oh, his career is on the
on the rise. This
rise. Next
guy
thing you know, he's in a
Oh,
commercial,
And then
and
he
he
was
but
doesn't even he
Claudine.
doesn't even
and
say
Claudine.
anything.
Yeah, Claudine. Remember he was
but
Claudine.
but a lot of you guys, I don't think you guys know.
Yeah.
During the '80s, he had a nice little career going, doing like
Doing what?
crime movies, but they would direct to DVD.
Huh? Really? I did
I
not
did
know.
not
And
know it.
and he's a
Yeah,
direct. He was a director. He was
yeah.
doing. Yeah, he's was behind the scenes. He went behind the scenes
I don't know
after
if
That's
acting.
good.
I don't know how much he went behind the scenes, but he was in a commercial,
Where the dog
and
got lines and he didn't.
yeah, he got like, so
What?
yeah, he was like
Yeah, some
there was
commercial.
and they were playing the Isley Brothers
Yeah,
song.
who's
You
that
know?
Yeah.
lady?
And
Remember
he
that?
played Joe Jackson in one of the biopics of the Jacksons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, but you think his trajectory of his career, you think at least he would get a McClintock movie or
Well,
show or
especially like
something.
After Welcome Back, Cotter, you would
Yeah,
think
especially yeah,
he would have come out of that with
yeah,
a
like
role.
John
But I want to
Travolta or
say, but the
somebody.
reality is, Travolta was the only one of those kids that came out of it with a career.
And then
Mm-hmm.
lost it and then came back.
Yeah,
Exactly. Lost it and came back.
and the thing that
Right,
brought
so
his
he's
career
like
back was
he's
Pulp Fiction.
Vinny Barbarino. They said after this I'm out, and he became what's the name
Benny
Saturday Night
Vega.
and
Saturday
said
Night
Uh,
Fever.
no, he did Saturday Night Fever. He did Urban Cowboy, and then I think those things kind of ran their
and then he started turning
course.
shit down. He started turning stuff down,
Yeah,
right?
and then when he got Pulp Fiction, that
Yeah.
was when his career was resurrected.
And what's the movie with the baby? Guess who's talking or something?
Yeah.
Look who's
Look
talking!
who's
Look who's
talking.
talking now! Yeah,
Yeah,
And the
that
was he the
didn't
three fathers? No,
No,
No, he
No,
wasn't.
Ted
Okay.
Danson, Tom Selleck, and
Tom
you know,
Selleck,
what's
Steve
the guy's
Gutenberg,
name?
and
Ted
Ted Danson.
Danson.
Yeah.
yeah,
Ted Danson is another resurrection, right?
Oh my God, he's constantly,
Especially later in his career, right?
absolutely,
And I
constantly.
don't think anybody who sees him now remembers him on Cheers.
As Sam, of course, I do Sam alone.
I don't think anybody really thinks about him. When you watch the show, you don't think of Sam Malone on Cheers.
No, you don't.
Well,
What's the good? What's it called? What's it? The good?
The Good
What's the good
Life,
place? Good place.
The Good Place. Yeah,
Good place. Yeah, you
and
see
then
him as
CSI.
yeah.
well,
I mean,
you
he's always good. Anything he does, he brings it.
he got. You would think that his career would be like. You would think that Lawrence Hilton Jacobs would have a similar career because
Right, right.
always in a sitcom. But
Mm,
I think I'm not in the industry at all, but I think that some people are easy to work with and others not so much. And I don't know for sure, just speculating, that people who are easy to work with almost always get roles in shows.
yeah.
And it,
yeah,
And people that easy to work with, or people who are consummate professionals that they
yeah,
know they get it in one take, two takes. They don't waste a lot of time and money. They like people like that too.
yeah. I think that's why Michael Caine said, "Listen, enough already. I'm 90. I
Hmm.
I can't do it because oh my God, every time you turned around, Michael Caine was in something."
yeah,
Yeah, and he was
yeah,
about that. He was
yeah.
about
He's
getting
about
that
that
money.
money. He's about that keep working.
Yeah,
What's the actor for? But to work.
yeah. This is job. I'm not a celebrity. I'm an actor. I'm a working actor. And he said he was a kid. I think they lived on the estate, in the projects. So he
Hmm.
understood not having money,
Yeah,
and so,
like people don't give up their day jobs like
hmm,
Michael J. Fox.
exactly, exactly. He did not. It's a lot of people like Shelley Long. She decided she was going to have a movie career, and she left Cheers.
I mean,
And
she left it. She
hmm,
flat out left it and said, "I'm going into the movie business, and
And the mo-
I ain't looking back at this stupid show."
and
hmm.
the film industry said nope.
He
They
said,
sure
Because
did,
they
didn't
said maybe you
they?
shouldn't have quit your day job.
yeah,
That's what they
yeah,
say.
They said
and
too hard to work with.
and
Well, yeah,
then if she wanted to come back, somebody has already taken that
that's
role.
Yeah.
right. And Kirstie Alley was better in the role.
Yeah, she brought more
Yeah,
gravity to the role.
and because she could laugh at herself, and she laughed at the way that her character was, and she did a great job. She did a really good job,
Yeah,
But
and
she
she's such a
she
climber, so it was really good.
but she had her stumble too, and then came back on Star Trek as Savick.
I thought she do Savick before she did that.
No, she did Savick after Cheers, I think.
I don't
I
know.
think it
Check
had to
and
be.
see.
I think this should begin that overweight actress show. She had.
Yeah, but I thought the role of Savick was before Cheers.
I don't think it was. Was it? It may
No,
have been. I don't know. I'm
sure.
guessing.
Now
I have
she
no
played the
idea.
first Savick, and then someone else played Savick after she
Yeah,
did.
because she didn't want to get typecast.
Into Aliens.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, typecast is
I mean, people always
Alien.
worried about that. People who play really iconic roles like Superman or Batman or something.
Yeah.
They don't want to get typecast.
Well, now it's not so bad.
It's not bad as it used to be. Like, George Reeves didn't want to become, Superman because like,
Hmm.
all his roles are Superman roles, or, Christopher Reeves
But I
wasn't
think the
taken
one, yeah,
seriously.
but I think the thing about George Reeves, the difference is that he played a very separate thing from his Clark Kent and his Superman. So I think that people look at you with the Clark Kent role, they see him no makeup, no nothing. He's just a guy acting in a role that can be bifurcated, and I think he would not have had such a difficult time getting roles
No, well,
I think he did.
no, he did. He did
because
because
everybody saw him. Well, I mean, no different than Adam West, right?
no, well, if you saw, take the movie From Here to Eternity, right?
Hmm.
He has a very brief appearance in From Here to Eternity. That's
Hmm.
because they were so afraid that people would would chuckle and laugh
Mm-hmm.
when they saw him in the movie that they just edited out most of his parts in there.
What a mess.
And
Yeah,
George Reeves was also in Gone with the Wind.
yeah,
Of course, that was before Superman, but still,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it's like once you're in that role, I mean, the thing I remember reading about him, what he's saying is, once you're in that role, you're in that role.
They're in it. You
I
know, it's
mean,
hard to.
it wasn't an accident that after every season when they would finish up for the year, he would take the Superman costume, go to the parking lot, and pick gasoline on it and burn it.
Huh. All right.
Which is crazy because
Because you could sell
just
that costume. It could have made a whole lot of money.
It's crazy to me because you got people with roles, and they
Mhm.
compete for those roles,
Mm-hmm.
and then you
get
do
the
everything.
role.
Yeah, you get the role, and you think, "Oh my God, thank God I got this role."
And
And then
play your
after you
ass
get the
off.
role, you're like,
Yeah.
"God damn, I wish I could get out of this role."
Yes, really? Because before you were not eating and living indoors. And now you're
Right.
eating and living indoors, and now you got an attitude.
Now you can't stand the role. I mean, the same thing with Ted Knight. I mean, Ted Knight was
Mhm.
Ted Baxter on the Mary Tyler Moore show.
Yep.
And then he said, I don't want to be seen as stupid on the
But
show.
that's what the role
But you-
is, man.
yeah, that's your
the
role.
It didn't change from day one to day whatever it was that it ended.
Well,
What a jerk.
again, that I think back then, like you said, Otto, typecasting,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of actors hated it. That's why, if you notice, a lot of actors that, especially during the '60s, that were in a lot of major movies, they started on television and they
Mm-hmm.
did look back. But then it changed. It changed by I guess, the '80s. I mean, look at Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
She took the part on Star Trek with no problem.
Well, it
You
was
know,
written for her.
but she has
Yeah.
love.
I always
That
said to them, write better. Write
you know.
better. Okay.
But what I'm saying though is that the main thing is that back then, guys like actors like Charles Bronson, especially Steve McQueen, um, Lee Marvin, once they got into movies, they were like, "Nah, I'm not coming
Yeah,
back."
they look. It was like a step down.
It was a step down. Yeah,
Not anymore.
not anymore. It's
You,
just
and you look at Ted Knight. Ted Knight is the only. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Ted Knight is the only major character. Well, no, that's not true. Him and the guy who played Murray were the only two that didn't do a spin-off roles, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everybody, you had Ed Asner do the Lou Grant show, and then Rhoda did her show, and then Phyllis did her show, and then you didn't have Ted Knight did his own show,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course it had nothing to do with Mary Tyler Moore,
Right.
and then of course Captain Stubing did his show that had nothing to do with Mary Tyler Moore.
Right.
I think there was only two that had shows that had nothing to do with Mary Tyler Moore when they moved on to their next
Yeah.
phase.
Because of course, Rhoda, Phyllis, they had Mary Tyler
And Lou
Moore
Grant,
shows. Lou
the Lou
Grant.
Grant show.
Yeah.
That
Even though it was a serious show, it was not a
right,
comedy, but again related to him being a newsman.
right. And he never mentioned, I watched that show. I really liked that show and I watched it. And he never mentioned Mary Tyler Moore
Yeah, isn't that weird? They
and
never
or
mentioned it.
WJM or any
Right,
of the,
right.
he didn't
Oh,
mention
nobody
that they
from
never
WJM
existed.
ever shows up on the
No,
show.
no, none of them at all. But you get like the other shows like Phyllis and Rhoda,
Mm-hmm.
and you have people from the Mary Tyler Moore universe make appearances on their show,
Mm-hmm.
but not Lou Grant. Lou Grant, no, I guess it was more of a serious show.
Right.
Ed Asner is a very serious actor. Was a
Wow.
very
Yes.
serious
Yes.
actor, and it was an hour-long show. It wasn't a
Mhm.
sitcom at all. It took on some very controversial issues.
Yeah, for the day.
But
so.
then the younger generation knows him for all the voiceover work he's done in
Especially Batman,
Batman,
the animated
yeah,
series.
and Gargoyles.
Mhm.
He was great. What a
Yeah,
great voice.
they
Because
also
I remember he did a convention and the little kids, you were in something that my mom used to watch.
Mhm.
So
And that's a strange thing to have someone, the kids know by their voice, but they don't know what they look like.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do they know that that's you, right? You have
Hmm.
to recreate your voice for them.
I don't know. I don't know. And oh, what is his name? His dad was an actor from Saint Elsewhere. Ed Begley
Yeah, I know the
Jr.
guy with the
Ed Begley
glasses,
Jr.
Ed Begley Jr. Right, also turned to a great
Voice actor
voice
as well.
actor. Yeah,
I think the thing
yeah.
with Ed Begley Jr. is that he, of course, from Saint Elsewhere, uh, the role there, but then he was also a recurring character in Voyager.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was. He was the
Hmm.
asshole from the
Yeah, for the
future.
future. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, for the
he's the reason
future.
why the
And then this
doctor
person,
got his.
yeah, they got the emitter, the mobile
Yeah,
emitter.
yeah. What a hole.
Yeah, what a jerk,
Oh
man.
man, he
Well,
was good.
another TV show that resurrected careers is the Law and Order shows.
Mhm.
A lot of A-list, former A-list actors, A-list, B-list TV TV stars would pop up.
Broadway and
Yeah,
actors.
Well,
Broadway
They
it's like what's his name said. I forgot the guy who did Glenn Ross. What's his name? The first 5 minutes, 15 minutes of Glenn Glary.
Oh, gosh, you just killed me with his name.
Right. I
Uh,
can't
uh,
forget people's names now, but he got an Oscar nomination for that Glenn Ross role that he
um,
did.
there was
What am
one
I
with your
getting
brother,
in there?
Baldwin.
Baldwin. Baldwin
Yes.
said, when you get to be my age, when you get to be a certain age as an actor, then you become a judge on Law and Order.
which you know what he's exactly right, because I never forget one time I'm watching an old episode of Gunsmoke, and it was about a black homesteading family, and it was this young black girl that was part of the family. The next thing I know, I'm looking at Law and Order, and who's the judge but that
Hmm.
same black woman actress?
Huh.
Yeah,
it
That's when
was
you know
all
you
the
got put out to pasture.
it's all the New York based actors because it was the only one that was those series were the only ones shooting
yeah,
on location.
yeah.
And so when if somebody needed their insurance, I need to do something big for my insurance. Come
Yeah,
on over.
Mm.
yeah. There was there was a actor here in New York that had a GoFundMe petition because he says he's like the only New York based actor that has never been on on Law and Order.
Only one. Either
So he,
it's either Law and Order or The Good Wife. It's like
Hmm.
those two shows. If you need some extra money, come on over here because you don't get paid a lot on
I
Broadway.
I I can remember I can remember at a event I went to, this stand up comedian. He was like, "Yo, I'm proud. I was on Law and Order." And they say, "Oh, what episode? What part?" He said the episode. He said, "How's the dead body?"
Yeah, I was murder victim number 7.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, so that's how you get your money to stretch out. So you come on the Law and Order or Good Wife. I mean, how many people on the Good Wife were either on Hamilton, played a role in Hamilton, or were eventually given a Tony Award. It's just like 1 out of 5. There's there's so many there's so many actors that were on that show that were Broadway actors, and I think the show was supposed to be based in Chicago, which is really weird.
Well, it's like this. Once you brush away the glitter and whatnot, these are working people. You know,
Yeah, they're workers. Yeah,
they're
because
work.
even the woman who starred in The Good Wife was on ER.
Yeah, these are working people. Um, Listen, I guarantee you, with Vincent Price, he was an art collector and he wanted to buy a certain painting,
That's
and
right.
and
Where you
he's
gonna get the
like,
money from?
"Where you gonna get the money from?" Well, okay, well, they sent me a script for The Last Man on Earth in Italy,
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go over
I'm
there.
gonna do that. I'm gonna do
I'm gonna
that.
do it.
I'm gonna do that ish. That's right. And they want me to put on an extra piece of head
Yeah. You know what I'm
to be
saying?
Egghead,
Yeah.
or Batman.
so, oh, you absolutely right. You know, listen. There was a time when uh, Europe, Italy, with the spaghetti westerns. I mean, my
Oh
God,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean a bunch. I mean, number one, Clint Eastwood is in them, right?
Hmm.
And then you got like you got Martin Balsam in there, and what's the name of the other guy that was always in westerns? I forgot the name. He was in Cool Hand Luke.
You probably you talk about George Kennedy.
I think George Kennedy was in there, but I talk about a little scrawny looking guy. I forgot his name, but
Oh, Starvo, you still Strother Martin. You talking
yeah,
about,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There were there was no spaghetti western. They showed
yeah,
up on the other side of the ocean, you know.
yeah.
So
Listen, Lola Falana, okay, Lola Falana, Alan Ladd,
yeah,
Henry Fonda.
yeah. I mean, you talk about Gene Kelly. He had a
Hmm.
great career, but when things got tough, Gene put on a toupee and a pit and put on false teeth, and he rolled it out because he got to get money.
You
So it's
gotta
like,
get money.
yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
You
And no,
gotta get.
and the thing is, we going back to the beginning of the show. We talk about Barnaby Jones. I
Okay.
never really watched that show. I don't really know anybody that watched that show except for my old aunts or something. They just watch shows like that. But he was there for like how many seasons, that Barnaby Jones thing? I
I
mean,
don't
that
know.
it lasted a while, right?
Hmm.
It's like your old aunts watch that show because they turn to a channel and they watch a favorite show, or maybe they watch The Price is Right or something, and they're
Hmm.
not getting up to change the channel. They're just not going to do it. If they don't have the remote, they're not going to try to look for it. That damn thing stays on channel 5 from like the beginning of the day to like till it goes off the
Exactly.
air. And it's like I told my aunt, it's like damn. I'm a kid. I was like, damn, ain't no cartoons on this channel, Aunt Mary. Come on. Why we gotta watch Channel 4 all the time? Ain't no cartoons on Channel 4. They show Channel 4 shows news, the soap operas, then more news, then Barnaby Jones, and then Medical Center, and then Emergency, and then more news, and then it goes to some Catholic priest giving us the final.
The
It's like there's
benediction. Yes,
nothing on this channel
well,
I want to watch.
unfortunately, we don't have control as kids,
We
right?
don't have any control over that. And so we kind of stuck with that, and then you have, of course, Mash, which is like another repository for
Hmm.
resurrections, with
Hmm.
Alan Alda and Wayne Rogers and McLean Stevenson, who for some reason, like
Hmm.
Shelley Long, but kind of in a worse way, in a much
Hmm.
worse way, did a show called because when he left MASH, they like exploded his helicopter, so he ain't coming back.
Yeah,
We
they
have to make
they
sure of
did that
that.
on
He ain't
purpose.
never come. At least Shelley Long had the opportunity to come back in different iterations,
Hmm.
but McLean blew up in the air. He ain't never coming back. And then he goes up to a show called Hello Larry. Now, the thing about Hello Larry is that the title itself tells you this is going to be a bomb.
Um,
This is
Yeah.
going to be a bomb. And you jump off a show like that, and a show that goes like it's still in reruns. If reruns are rerunning,
Yeah.
and so you're
well,
giving up all your residuals, and you go and Hello Larry was on for a minute.
first of all,
Mm-mm-mm.
Was on TV longer than the Korean War itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
true. That's
was.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then if you watch Me TV, they got
Hmm.
like 2 hours of that damn show.
Hmm.
Yeah,
He said, Rick,
absolutely.
Rick, Rick, can you watch 4 MASH episodes in a row? Me
Hmm.
TV.
Right here. We
Right
got
here,
you.
Me TV.
We got you.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, why would you give that up? Because, I mean, but if you look at the offer they made McLean, it kind of,
Hmm.
they said that McLean, I read about it. They said, McLean Stevenson said they gave him more money than they were paying Johnny Carson at the time.
Wow.
So it's like,
I would say
it was almost
why?
like an offer you can't refuse. It's like, what do you do when
I mean,
somebody makes you an offer like that?
I
Wow.
know it's like wow, but it just seems so not good.
I think when somebody offered me that kind of money like that, I'm thinking this is a setup. Man.
I would think so too.
Why
Well,
you want me off the show so bad? And you pay me more than your number one guy?
well, again,
Mm,
I think that okay, they saw something in him, but the 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 material, the product, or whatever that they
mm-hmm.
gave him to work with, or he
Yeah.
might have choose, or maybe again like Tony Randall in the early '60s, they just didn't know what to do with him.
Oh, that's a possibility too.
You
Then
know,
why leave a show? I'm on when they know what to do with
Yeah, and
me.
it's on the
You know?
rise, and you're doing
he
fine. They're
he
making your money.
It's a lot of money.
probably
I mean, he turned out a lot of money all at once for a lot of money over a long period of time.
right,
And then
but
So
it
I
didn't
mean, if you had the
go. Yeah,
choice, what would you do in that? And if somebody gave you that choice, a lot of money all at once, or a whole lot more money over a long period of time.
you know what? It might have been had something to do with the residuals.
could
Okay,
be.
The residuals, the royalties might not have been enough had he stayed with Mash. It might have been just a quarter of the
Mm-hmm.
pie. While with NBC,
Hello, Larry.
it might
But
have
they only
been
stayed on for a little bit. It crashed and
I'm
burned.
sorry. I would
It was
not. I would.
It was DOA.
Yeah, I would have taken my monies that I had that I could rely on. You know, so I'm not gonna get greedy. You know, I know. You know, I have no. I don't headline this show. You know, it's one thing if I went from a show that I'm
right,
headlining to another show that I'm headlining,
right.
but I don't headline this show, and they've never
But he
gave me
was.
line.
McLean
But this,
Stevenson was headlining Hello, Larry.
no, I'm saying before that,
Oh, all right.
on when he was doing Mash, you know, I don't know if I've got the ability to carry an entire show. You know,
He thought he did. I think the same thing is with John Amos leaving the MTN
hmm
universe.
he thought he had it.
He thought he did have the charisma, and he was a fine actor.
Mm,
He's a fine actor put in a bad situation. Norman Lear
uh-huh.
is Norman Lear is a slumlord.
Yeah,
He's a
agreed.
slumlord for black people
Mm-hmm.
with the majority of his shows.
Yeah, because I think Norman Lear. I think with him, it was he thought what was best for black people.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Instead of finding
Asking,
out, asking. Okay,
what do
we
you
also,
all think would be
yeah,
best? You know?
and we cannot, we got to include in this conversation David Caruso.
Mm. Oh my
Okay,
goodness! Oh my lord! Yeah, that was a mess.
yeah,
whatever.
boy, oh
Yeah,
boy,
he thought he
Mm-hmm.
made the right choice,
yeah,
right?
He become he's
and,
a movie star now. He decided I'm a movie
yeah,
star.
and some of it is ego.
Mm-hmm.
Some of
A
it
lot of
is
it ego, because I guess in order to play these roles in the first place or even try out for them, you got to
ego.
have the ego the size of a ship, that
Mm-hmm.
Queen Mary or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
yeah.
yeah,
got to have a huge ego.
yeah. That was the case with Steve McQueen. Okay, he said that if you want me to do the Great Escape,
Mm-hmm.
I want my scenes shot separately from the rest of the cast because he was supposed
Wow.
to, yeah, he was supposed to be a part of the ensemble
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So if you guys go back and watch the Great Escape, you notice his scenes are separate
Why?
because
It's
of his
ego, I guess.
ego, because
Well,
of
he
his
had the
ego.
same the same deal with Yul Brynner
Yeah,
in that Magnificent Seven. He said, acting with Yul wants you to just stand there and not
yeah.
cause attention to yourself. And I can't act with Yul Brynner anymore. This will be it for me.
And,
Mm.
and Hugh Brenner was like, "Who's this young upstart?"
Mm-hmm.
In a way, so Steve McQueen kind of sabotaged Yule in a way because Yule didn't have the technique to handle a gun. So Steve McQueen was like, "Here, let me show you how to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
handle a gun, fire it, all that." And he taught him everything wrong.
Oh my
Wow.
God, what an
What
a-hole.
asshole.
He taught you, Brenner, everything wrong, how to deal with the gun. You
That was
know,
awful.
Mhm.
it was conflict.
What an asshole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but see, because you had two big egos,
But you
two
know
big
what?
egos.
He could have done nothing.
Right. Right. They've flown on his own. And the thing wasn't Yul Brenner? Yul Brenner went in the Magnificent Seven role with another actor. They were going to do the role. Yul promised him the role, and then decided to go with Steve McQueen, and he got sued over that. I forgot who it
Mm.
was.
Yeah,
What actor that
Wow.
was?
yeah,
Another
I heard
action
I
hero.
heard about that too.
Yeah,
I
he
heard
wanted
about
to
that.
be in the Steve McQueen role, but you got what he got what he deserved, I guess.
Yeah.
Going with Steve McQueen.
And
Hmm.
mind you, as time went on, and the parts started to dwindle, you see, Yul Brynner had to reprise his
Hmm.
role in Westworld,
Yeah,
basically. You know,
right. Because
because
what are these roles called? They're called mortgage payments and rent payments and
Hmm.
child support and
Yep.
alimony,
Hmm.
alimony, and a bitch on the side,
yeah,
money. I
Hmm.
yeah,
need, I need to pay. Because I
yeah,
live this life. Now I need to pay
Hmm.
for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you gotta pay the bills and
Yeah.
whatnot. So you gotta take these
You
roles.
got to
That's
take
I
these roles, right? If somebody had you as a head,
Very
sticking
good.
out of the ground.
The head
If
sticking out of
somebody
the ground.
said,
Very nice.
Penelope, I have your role for you. You're just a head sticking out of the ground. And I'm going to
Okay.
pay you,
okay.
Okay.
$100,000 a day. Then you be a head sticking out of the ground.
Yep. Because
Yeah,
I got to pay my
You know,
rent, you
you
know?
gotta
and
pay your rent.
starring Penelope Flynn as a head
It's
sticking out of
sticking
the
out of the
ground.
ground. Woohoo.
You know,
I'm
so
paying. I'm, but you have people leaving roles like that. But you say, oh my God, I can leave that much money behind. But you have Wayne Rogers, you have
Yes.
What is it, Linville?
Denville, yeah,
Yeah, Larry Linville. They left match too, and Larry showed up on. Did he show up on Quincy? I think. I know he was in a bunch of Cold Shack the Night Stalker
I think.
shows,
Wait a minute. Yeah, um, I don't think it was Quincy.
and Wayne Rogers went into like what real estate or something like that.
No, he had,
He,
I think he owned a wedding bridal shops, something like that. He
and
owned
he
bridal
also
shops.
owned a whole bunch of convenience stores because he owned most of the convenience stores in Tallahassee.
Hmm.
And I guess he didn't want to play second banana to Alan Alda anymore.
Or he
He
just
just
didn't want to act
invested his
anymore.
no, he invested his money well and just
He didn't
decided
want to
no
act.
more.
He didn't want to act anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
if you had that choice,
I think Larry Linville disappeared because he had gotten sick and then came back and then went into remission,
Mm.
and that's when he restarted his career, and then he got sick again.
but you have people that stayed on that show like to the end, like Loretta Swit and of course Alan
Hmm.
Alda,
Well,
and
and
Alan
James
Alda had
Bond.
owned a huge chunk of it by the
and
time it ended.
he had different roles, which apparently I know nothing about Hollywood, but he had these different roles where he get these residuals because it's like I'm the producer, I'm the writer, and I'm also
Hmm.
the actor.
Yeah.
So I have the different sources of residual fees coming from like three or four.
Hmm.
And say you son of a bitch, you couldn't put me up as
Did he give me any of
executive.
that, man? Just a
Yeah,
little.
because you watch shows today after a while, after maybe the first season,
Hmm.
and maybe it's in people's contracts, but you have people, you see the second season of a show and they'll show,
Mhm.
James as executive producer or something. You know what I mean? Well, I thought he was the actor, but he's also the executive producer.
Well,
So I
I,
think people get different resource
Hmm.
avenues to get money.
well,
Right.
I,
Absolutely.
I can tell you real quick. This what you saying with the residuals, I know for fact because I think I told you guys that years ago when I was a paralegal, I was working. The lawyer I worked for, we was working on a case with Jerry Orbach. Okay, he was suing
Hmm.
the Waldorf Astoria, and what it was, you guys know about Discovery,
Hmm.
so they the Waldorf Astoria's people wanted to find out what type of income was Jerry Orbach bringing in. And mind you, he had passed away, but he had told our lawyer that if the case is won, he wants the money to go to the estate of the director because the director him and her, they were good friends. So
Hmm.
anyway, I had to go through a box of his information, and I was coming up with copies of checks from Tales from the Dark Side,
Hmm.
some other TV shows, Law and Order, and the man was getting like a check almost every day in his mailbox.
Wow.
Okay, some checks would be like maybe for $148, some for maybe 500, some for this amount, that amount. But yeah, residuals.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Apparently, that's where the action is, and if you can get
But they
into getting different roles in a show like Alan Alda did, like producer, writer,
Hmm.
and actor, and you can write the theme music or something. You
well
Yeah.
know,
that's
you
but
get
that's
so
the
many
whole
different resources.
that was the whole point of the actors strike that past just happened because residuals don't pay anymore
Mm,
because of streaming
hmm
Well, it's what
and
Netflix
TV
is.
shows.
What to my
Yes, but
knowledge,
it's
I
also
looked
your
into.
contract.
Yeah,
You
I
Yeah,
looked
know.
into.
but they don't. Yeah,
I looked into what the actors were getting for Orange Is the New Black.
nothing. That
And
was
that is
ridiculous.
if I was teaching a class in residuals and contract law, that would be
That's what
exhibit
I would
A.
use.
That would be exhibit A because those actors got fucked over.
And the producers basically they said, well, they use a different multiplier for their money, what they
And
got.
that's
They
why
said they got
Netflix is
all the
so
money,
and
and
Netflix
then
is so secretive about how many people are watching their shows and
hmm
who's streaming their shows because the thing was, you get your residuals based on the amount of people that are watching or something like that,
hmm
and then they would get actors, and then you in a role, and you wouldn't know whether your role was going to be in that episode, but you'd be waiting around for like 2 weeks, and you can't take another job.
hmm
hmm
So you have to just wait, and you don't get paid until you go on scene.
that's
And so
ridiculous.
Netflix, so many places are worse than sweatshops.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can't
Greedy,
blame them for going on
greedy.
strike.
Yeah, you can't.
No, no, you can't.
I mean, greedy, greedy.
Yeah, and since everything is almost streaming, now they have Netflix movies that are nominated for Oscars and other industry awards. It's like it's really that's the way things go because you had a lot of movies that show up on the screen, and
Hmm.
before you could turn your head around, it's streaming
Yeah,
or it's on some
immediately.
platform. Yeah, yeah. And so, I understand them going on strike, and they should have. But having that residual coming in like that, especially a long running show,
Yeah.
it's another reason why I think Mulder, the guy who played Mulder on X Files,
Oh yeah, he sued.
yeah, he sued because I think
David Duchovny
Fox
sued.
tried to work out some deal where they would only sell to affiliated
Hmm.
networks or platforms.
When
So
other
they
networks were trying to get them in
Right. So
syndication.
their residuals would be down. So
Hmm.
they would
They would
pay
have to
lower
pay the
residuals.
residuals. Yeah,
And that's self dealing. That's what they
yeah,
call in
and
law self dealing.
yeah,
You
and they
know,
tried it, but they didn't get away with it. I thought that was ridiculous. As much
it
money you
was
make off this show, and you don't want to give this man his money.
right. And of course, Gillian Anderson showed up in a bunch of different roles.
Hmm.
You know,
What was the
um,
one? The Fallen, right?
The Fall,
The Fall. This is The Fall,
hmm
and Hannibal.
Hannibal, and David Duchovny had was it California,
California, yeah, but yeah, California, and that was
some
that was
movie.
yeah,
No,
because
there's a series on Showtime.
oh, I don't know,
Calification,
Yeah,
calification.
yeah, that's where he showed up.
Californication or Cali.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
like
was a cat.
Yeah, because it was fornicate.
Can you say it? Say it quickly, three
Calification.
times. Quick.
Yeah,
Californication, yeah.
Yeah. So that
Californication.
was a show on Showtime. That was a show that ran on Showtime. I think for several. It ran for a while, right?
Hmm.
So he got his career resurrected. He rose up from
And
Hmm.
being Fox Mulder, and of course he was a recurring character on what's the name of the show? Well,
What?
the Gary Shandling show.
Oh my God, yeah,
He
that
played
was.
so
himself though. He played
Yeah,
himself though.
he played himself.
He was also on. He also hosted Red Shoe Diaries on Showtime.
Yeah, he was all into the soft porn thing. You know,
Yeah,
the company was into his soft porn
and
phase of his career.
and Jillian went back over to England because people keep forgetting that she's an American who was born in England. She went back over to England to reintroduce her career.
Yeah, and she some of the
She
shows like The
played.
Fall, she had
Mhm.
an accent, and it sounded kind of funny. Phony. I don't know whether it was British or whether it was Scottish.
Or Irish.
I
But I would
can't
say,
remember where she was born, but she was born in England.
Okay.
but I would say, thank God for closed captions. That's what I have to say.
That's
Right,
the same
please.
thing like Bob Hope.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
Who also resurrected her career, right? And like James said, people look down on television. Everyone got on television. Well, Liz jumped on the TV train. She got her ass back on TV. She got her ass on television, and she was doing was it Dynasty or
But
Falcon's Crest or something? I don't know what it was.
Carol also.
Yeah, yeah. Television didn't become so downtrodden then, did it?
In fact, when it came around to like Mad Men and things like that, then television was really in
Right.
its heyday.
And you talk about Bryan Cranston, who started out Malcolm
Hmm.
in the Middle,
Doing
and
Breaking Bad.
then did Breaking Bad. But of course, he was a main character on Malcolm in the Middle, and then he did Breaking Bad. I never saw him as the dad from
Hmm.
Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad. Did you?
No, no, not at all.
Yeah. So I mean I guess that's the trait of a very good actor, right?
Yeah.
They can do that role because there were two divergent characters.
Hmm.
But I
Was
remember
comedy.
was it a video on YouTube or whatever where they showed him waking up from a dream? Was that?
Yeah, that was. Oh, yeah, but I don't know if whether it was a YouTube video or whether it was an award show or something where they have him and Willow is waking up where he is still in Malcolm in the Middle, but
And he
where
waking
his
up from a dream,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the Breaking Bad
yes,
life was a dream. He said, "Oh
yes,
my God, it was this high school teacher teaching chemistry, and then I became this meth pusher." And then
yeah, and they had Lois like, yeah, whatevs.
right,
Well,
yeah,
that's a good thing in that somebody like that he doesn't forget about his past, so to speak.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
important.
Malcolm in the Middle is a reboot now.
Yeah, and I want to see it actually because I liked Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, and then of course we can't forget Bob Newhart. Who God
Yes,
came? How many iterations of Bob Newhart show?
and
Which he
even
also did
that.
the waking up in the bed.
Yes, everybody died in the last season of the Newhart show when he wakes up in bed, his wife, and it's not the wife he had in Newhart, but the wife in the Bob Newhart show is Emily. It's like, oh my God. And so everybody's freaked out because it was Emily.
Which show did you like best?
Of course, Bob Newhart. My
Instead
gosh.
of Newhart, you like Bob
Newhart,
Newhart show.
absolutely. Bob Newhart show
Okay,
was
what about because I just saw a clip of it the other day. What about the Bob Newhart show where he's a cartoonist?
That was Bob.
I don't,
Yeah,
That was Bob. How
I
long did
think it
that
was Bob.
stay?
I don't remember that one.
I didn't know what the
And
hell
then
it
he
was.
Well,
came,
obviously
and
I
then
didn't watch it.
and then he came back and did Big Bang Theory. So
I
a
didn't
whole
watch
whole
that
bunch
show,
of
so I don't know
people.
him in that one.
Yeah, he
I don't
was
watch that.
he was like the uh, Bill Nye the Science Guy type
Yeah.
on Big Bang.
But like James said, speaking of Steve Allen show, I think Newhart got his start on that show too.
Yeah, he
Really?
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
I
couple
should think
of
the
people.
cartoonist would have was the show My World and Welcome to It. Wasn't that the cartoonist?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Penelope. I was thinking
No,
about that.
that was William Wyndham.
Yeah, I remember that from when I was a
Yeah.
kid. But I don't.
And you know what?
remember.
I watched that show because it had animation on it,
Yep, me too.
but I had no idea what the hell that was going on.
Me
Yeah.
neither.
Yeah.
Hoo-hoo.
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
what
had no idea. It had
Yeah.
cartoons, and I
Ah,
was watching it. And it had cartoons
That's
on
right,
at night.
man.
It had cartoons when the sun was
Yeah.
down. I was watching the hell out of that
Yeah,
thing, but I
that's
had
right.
no
I'm
idea what was
on it.
going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Steve Allen show. It was Bob Newhart, Tom Poston. Um,
Mm-hmm.
who else? Uh,
Daryl, and my other brother Daryl.
no, I'm talking
No,
about the Steve Allen show.
no,
Oh,
not,
Steve.
not,
Yeah, well,
Tom
people who are on Steve
on
Allen
the Steve.
also
Yeah.
Tom
yeah.
Poston was married to what's her name, Suzanne Plachette.
I did
Really?
not know that.
A more unlikely couple I cannot imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now I could not picture them two together.
Me either, but
No,
apparently
I guess the other thing had happened.
Suzanne loved him, and he loved her. So,
Okay, great, hon. Yeah, loved it.
so
Great.
would By the way, Suzanne, when I watched The Birds, one of your James' favorite movies, when I watched The
Don't
Birds,
start. Don't start.
I thought Suzanne Plachette was more glamorous looking than Tippi Hedren to me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
she's
I
very,
thought.
Yeah.
yeah, she's much
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
looking.
I felt the same way. But let us.
But yeah,
Let us
ugly ass Tom Poston was married to Suzanne Plachette,
wow, that's
Mm-hmm. That's
whoa.
interesting.
She saw something in him.
Yeah,
and
she
nobody
did.
else.
We missed it, but she got it. All right.
That's
Yeah.
what people. And that's what people say about Penelope. That's the same thing.
What?
But
Oh,
that
get
you
out of
see
here.
something in me that nobody else see.
Okay, that's very cute. Very
Everybody's
cute.
trash. Not somebody's trash is somebody else's treasure.
Yeah, something like that. I guess so.
That's what they said.
That's what he said.
One person's trash is another
One
person.
person's
uh,
trash and another person's treasure.
Yeah.
Another
And that's where she found me in the
another person's
trash.
rubbish.
And the pump, yeah.
Right, but that's why Tom Poston was always on the
On the
Newhart show.
Newhart
And
show. Wow, that's interesting. Even
yeah,
though Suzanne Plachette didn't make them move, I gotta say I did not like the woman who played the wife in Newhart.
she was serviceable.
I mean,
She was
that's all.
serviceable. Yeah.
She had big shoes to fill. I just don't think she could have filled the shoes in Suzanne Plachette. That's a lot to ask. I know.
To me, during the '70s and I think mid '70s and stuff, like when the Bob Newhart show was on and everything, and you had Julia, and you had a lot of other shows where you had women working in different spaces and stuff.
Hmm.
That to me, showed me what women were doing and what was expecting and all this other
Right,
stuff.
right.
Apparently my thinking about that was all wrong. But the rest, it
Yeah,
didn't jive with the rest
yeah,
of the country because that's not how people thought, including women themselves in those
yeah.
parts of the country. So,
And I guess a lot of like we sometimes talk about the fact that was aspirational. Although
which is
we
crazy
thought
to
that
me.
that's
I
the
thought
way that it was with adults who were working right then.
I thought it right then. I mean,
Aspirational.
hate to jump on the New York thing, but if you get a New York subway and they should sit you on your way to like Wall Street or Midtown or something, there's men and women. They're they're doing their thing. There's no,
Hmm.
it's just happening.
So
It's like stuff needs to be done, and some women are doing it and men are doing it. As long as it gets done, nobody gives a damn.
Hmm.
so what are you saying? Back then, what we thought was normal was ahead of its time.
Yes, I think so.
Which is incredible, and people were as resistant to it, including women themselves.
I thought it was part of the course.
Yeah. I mean, we all did. We saw this on
We
television.
were we were we were not right.
We
We were
thought this was
wrong.
reality. We thought that this was what the reality was. And we found later on that this is not. It's aspirational. It was not what was going on right then.
See,
Okay. I always say it's like I can't run over to WJM and apply for this job because they weren't giving it to people that looked like me, or maybe even not even like Mary Tyler Moore at the time.
No, they wouldn't. It's crazy.
and oh, okay. Here's another thing. Okay, Diana Riggs, the Avengers.
Yeah.
A
Miss
lot of people,
Emma Peel.
yes,
A lot of people didn't like her in that role, or didn't want that role to be a female role.
well, not just that role, but after she left in the early '70s, she did a Mary type Mary Tyler Moore type show here in America.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it did not catch on. In fact, I think it was also on CBS, but I think she was like I could be wrong, fashion designer or artist. But put it this way, she was her own woman,
Was it
own.
good?
I saw it on YouTube. You could find it on YouTube, and you could see. You look at it, you think maybe it would have been better. It could have been better written,
Yeah.
or something like that. But now that you guys mentioned it, I guess people had a problem with her show.
Well, I think the thing is this. As a kid, I watched Mary Tyler Moore not because I thought I was doing something to fight for feminism or anything like that, because it was good. It was a good show.
Yeah,
I wasn't trying to be political
yeah.
at that
I just
age.
thought I
I
just
thought
thought
it was
it
a good
was
show.
I thought it was a good show. I
Yeah,
thought
like I
it's
watched the
funny.
Cal. I watched the Cal Burnett show, who is another person that shows up in multitudes of other roles and stuff across the spectrum of television and movies. But I watched the Cal Burnett show because I thought it was funny. These people are crazy. People are crazy, y'all. That's the main thing. And we gotta come to grips with the fact they have always been crazy, and the internet just supercharged their craziness. And so it's like it's nothing. This is nothing new. We are like, oh my god, let's go back to where we were before. No, no, it wasn't so glorious
Yeah,
before.
yeah. You know what? As what's his name said on Battlestar Galactica, so say we all. So
Yeah,
say we
it's like
all.
it's like somebody was doing a retrospective of Star Trek, and people have a lot of problems with Gene Roddenberry, and I'm one of them. But a thing that they said Roddenberry said was, infinite diversity, infinite possibilities,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I can see nothing wrong with that. I can't see nothing wrong with that.
I never thought that that would be a dirty word or a
A
dirty saying.
thing, yeah, a thing.
Okay.
Why is that a thing?
I guess I'm stupid because I actually used to look at Star Trek for a metaphor of this country. Silly me.
Yeah, it's like remember the Frank Gorshin, they black on one side and white on
Yeah,
the other side.
yeah,
I said, why are you fighting?
yeah,
Well, he's black on the wrong side and he's white on the wrong side.
yeah,
I said, you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs?
yeah. I guess I didn't get the memo because uh, um
Well, neither did I. I didn't get it either. Or I failed to look at it, put it in a junk mail pile or something, and then look at it. But that I was thinking about in the Artemis space probe that's going around to the dark side of the moon,
mhm.
and which had never been seen by human eyes before. Apparently, I mean, just naked human eyes before. And so the question becomes, what if they go over the dark side of the moon, they find some aliens or something, and maybe some aliens can either save us or devour us,
Oh
That's
so
yeah,
yeah.
that we know that we understand that there's no such thing as race, but we all need to save our own asses and put our own asses in the same box or boat,
yeah.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
just to try to find a way, like the thing on what is it called, Cosmic Slop, where they had that story with they said just give us all your black people, the aliens, and they said okay, we'll
Yeah,
see you
yeah.
aliens.
Or what if they go around on that side and we find out that William Hayashi was right?
That's
Oh
right, man.
yeah, that'd be real.
That'd be
But
great.
but
Say,
but
when's the
but it's
mothership coming for me?
apparently the views of the dark side of the moon start streaming it tomorrow. I think around
7
6 or
Eastern.
7 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, cool.
So
Yeah.
it's
So,
going to be an
guys, it's gonna be really
incredible
incredible.
thing.
I think it's wonderful.
Mm.
Okay, now we're down to the last minute of the show. So, does anybody have anything that they want to say other than Happy Easter? Everybody have a wonderful remainder of your Happy
Happy
Easter
Resurrection
day.
Day.
Happy Resurrection Day. Yes, for all of y'all who put it that way.
Happy Artemis 2 Day.
All right, yeah. Okay, but watch out for Artemis 2. Check the dates for and time for when it is that you want to see the dark side of the moon. The back side of the moon is what we used to call it.
I
All
got
right,
your
y'all.
backside.
All right. Y'all take
It's
care of
dark.
yourselves. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Goodbye.